Hello everyone! The Naru have been friends of the Draenei for a very long time, and we know that in Warlords of Draenor they'll get a part in the story. But who are they? Why do they help the Draenei? And what have they done for us? That's what I want to talk about in this video. Now keep in mind that there's a bunch of Naru out there and I won't be able to cover each and every one of them. I will tell you the most important details, so let's just begin, shall we? To understand the Naru, we'll have to go way back into the past, to the time where Sargeras paid a visit to a planet named Argus. The people on Argus called themselves Eredar and they had three powerful rulers: Kil'jaeden, Archimonde and Velen. Sargeras offered them great power and knowledge from all over the universe in return for their loyalty. Kil'jaeden and Archimonde thought that this was a great plan and were directly on board, but Velen had a feeling that something wasn't quite right. He went to their temple, which held the Atamal crystal, a crystal that was given to their people, and this was so long ago that none of the Eredar remembered who exactly gave it to them. As he meditated on what Sargeras was offering, he saw exactly what was promised: power, knowledge, loving people who worshipped them, but then he looked at himself and he saw something horrible. He was transformed into Manari, the Eredar word for something that is twisted, hideously and fundamentally wrong. He looked at Kil'jaeden and Archimonde to see the same transformation, and the loving people that would worship them were actually demons, corpses and nothing but destroyed planets. Velen knew that if he and the others would support Sargeras, then this would not just happen to one planet, the entire universe would fall. He snapped back out of his vision and realized that this had not happened yet. He could still change it, so he went to talk with Archimonde and Kil'jaeden, who were as close to him as brothers, but it did no good. They were already intoxicated from the future promised by Sargeras, and they didn't believe Velen. He returned to the Atamal crystal with despair in his heart and tears in his eyes. He knew that they had to flee, had to escape the planet. But how? In response, the Atamal crystal started to glow, and a voice inside his mind told him to touch it. The strange glowing field about the Atamal crystal grew, stretched upward, assumed a shape. Velen blinked, almost blinded by the radiance, but not wanting to look away. "You are not alone, Velen of the Eredar," the voice whispered to him. It was soothing, sweet, like the sound of flowing water and the rush of a summer wind. "We too have sensed the impending horrors about to befall this and other worlds. We strive to keep the balance, and what Sargeras is planning will rip apart everything. Utter chaos and ruination will descend, and the things that are good and true and pure and holy will be lost beyond recovery. We are the Naru," the radiant entity said. "You may call me Kur." "This is where it all begins," Kur continued. "We cannot stop it, for your friends have free will, but you have reached out with an anguished heart to save what you can. And therefore, we will do what we can. We will save those of you whose hearts reject the horror of what Sargeras offers." "But what do I do?" Again tears filled Velen's eyes, tears of relief and joy this time. "Gather those who listen to your wisdom. Go to the highest mountain in the land on the longest day of the year. Take the Atamal crystal with you. Long, long ago did we give it to you. It is how we will find you again. We will come and bear you away." And so Velen used his powers to touch the minds of those he knew could be trusted, who would listen to reason. One amongst them was Talgov, an old friend who he asked for help in finding more to come with them. Unknown to Velen was that Talgov would betray him. When all of his people gathered on the hill, ready to evacuate, Talgov and a few of the Eredar made their way up the mountain. Velen was about to walk towards them as the Atamal crystal, in the meantime he had taken it with him, sent him a warning. He could sense that Sargeras had already begun turning the Eredar into Manari. Thousands of them were surrounded the hill, and desperately Velen prayed. A prayer wrenched from the utter depths of his despairing soul, shivered up in his mind. "Kur, help us." He took the Atamal crystal and thrust it upwards to the sky, and a great shaft of white light shot through it, shattering the large crystal into 7 smaller pieces. Around the people that Velen had gathered, a large shield of light appeared, and above them was Kur, just as he promised. Kur had brought with him a vessel that would take Velen's people away, and he told Velen to take the 7 crystals, for he would surely need them. With all of the collected on board, they fled their planet, leaving behind those who would forever be a part of the Burning Legion. Kil'jaeden took this betrayal very personal, and he promised that he would find Velen and the rest of them, even if it took 1,000 years. From that moment on, the Eredar who evacuated the planet started to call themselves Draenei, which means exiled ones, and from that moment on, the chase was on. Kil'jaeden and the Burning Legion would find the Draenei would evacuate the planets before the Legion arrived. This went on for a lot of years, till the moment came that Khur fell ill, and they had to stay on a planet they would name Draenor, which means Exile's Refuge. Another race lived on Draenor, namely the Orcs, and the Orcs would make the crashed vessel of the Draenei a very holy place. Khur and the spirits of the Orcs, they became friends, and they were drawn to him. He would become a part of the Orcish culture, and they would unknowingly take care of the sick Naru. They named the area Oshugan, and it would become a very holy place, a place where they would celebrate the Kosh-Ark festival. This festival is to celebrate the changing of seasons, and gave all the Orcish clans a chance to get together and communicate with each other. I'm going to have to keep the story between the Orcs and Draenei on a need-to-know basis, since I want to focus this video on the Naru. Orcs and Draenei were not exactly allies, but they were also not each other's enemies. They traded with each other, but mostly kept to themselves. Kil'jaeden once again found the Draenei, and instead of sending his Burning Legion, he decided to use the Orcs to do the job. He corrupted them, manipulated them into becoming the Horde, and turned them against the Draenei. Velen tried to reason with the Orcs by inviting them to join him on a trip to Oshugan. He had a plan in mind of showing them what exactly it was that the Orcs were worshipping, the Naru, but his plan failed miserably. This mountain is sacred to your people. We know this, and we have respected it, but it is also sacred to us. Velen took a step forward, his gaze locked on Durotan's. The Orc warriors around him shifted, murmured, but otherwise did not move. Deep inside the mountain is a being that has long cared for the Draenei people, Velen continued. It is older by far than anything either of our minds can grasp, and more powerful. But even old and powerful things can die, and it is dying now. There is wisdom and grace and reconciliation we can have from it, your people and mine. We, blasphemer. Durotan stared. The bitter cry had sprung from their throats, not of some short-tempered warrior in the crowd, but from the Orc who stood beside him. Drekvar's eyes were wide, and his body trembled with outrage. Veins stood out on his neck, and he shook his fist at Velen. Durotan was so shocked by the outburst that he did not silence it as quickly as he should have. And Drekvar continued. Oshugan belongs to us. It is the home of the beloved dead, cradler of their spirits, and your hideous cloven feet are not fit to take one step up its blast sides. Velen too seemed surprised at the outburst. He turned his attention to the shaman and stretched out a hand imploringly. Your spirits are housed within these walls, it is true, and I would never say it was not so, Velen cried. But they are drawn there because of this being. It seeks to... It was exactly the wrong thing to say. Instead of bringing peace, the Orcs were insulted by Velen's story. A glowing Naru beast who drawn in their spirits like a moth to a flame. That was not something they took lightly, and it took everything Durotan had to prevent his people from killing Velen on the spot. He would later release Velen, and as Velen returned to his people, he told them, the Orcs will not be dissuaded from this path, he said, and therefore, if we are to survive, we too must walk the path of war. Far in the distance, broken, dying, resting as peacefully as possible, deep below the waters of the sacred pool, the being known as Khur uttered a deep, agonized cry. Velen stared, recognizing the voice, and bowed his head. With that, the Draenei and Orcs were at war, and although Velen desperately wanted to keep his people safe, he was told that he was needed for a greater plan. The army of light who would stand against the Legion and the darkness, and so Velen had to survive. They had to get Kil'jaeden off their tail, so they came up with a plan. And the plan was that Siofra's city, which was the last major city of the Draenei, this was the last target that the Horde needed to exterminate. They left enough of their people behind to make it look like all of them were exterminated, and then Velen and the rest of his people moved to Zangarmarsh, where they hid away. The Orcs fulfilled their mission, and Kil'jaeden believed Velen and the rest to be dead, so he left the Orcs to their fate. The Orcs would eventually start their first invasion of Azeroth, while the Draenei suffered. Some would devolve into broken or lost ones, while others remained sane enough to see the day where the Naru would once again come to the rescue. This next part is a little bit vague as to when and how everything happened. Burning Crusade lore has been retconned a couple of times just to make more sense, but it's the story that we have, so we'll have to go with it. These are the events that transpired. The Alliance, they defeated the Horde, pushed them back to Outland and closed the portal behind them. Illidan, Lady Vashj and Kil'jaeden Sunstrider made their way to Outland at the end of Warcraft 3 and they became the new rulers. Outland got more demonic activity and Khadgar of the Alliance used his powers to look for help in the Great Dark. There he found a Naaru named Adal and he managed to convince Adal to come and help them. Adal and the rest of his Naaru, who called themselves the Shatar, showed up with the vessels we call the Tempest Keep. They talked to Velen, and Velen told them about the prophecy that he had. I'll get back to this prophecy later, but what you need to know is that the Naaru named Muru had to stay behind and defend the Tempest Keep, because Kil'jaeden Sunstrider and his elves, they were going to attack it. Muru was just on his own, so he was captured and sent to Silvermoon, where the Blood Elves would use him as a source of power. Adal and the Shatar, they teamed up with the Aldor and they cleansed the city of Shafra, claiming it as a refuge. At one point, Illidan decided that it was a good idea to attack Shafra in the Naaru. We're not exactly sure why he attacked, because Illidan, he was building defenses against Kil'jaeden, so it seems smarter to team up with the forces than actually attack them. But either way, he still sent the Blood Elves in an attack. The Aldor gathered up to defend the city, but instead the Blood Elves, they laid down their weapons in front of the city's defenders. Their leader, a Blood Elf elder known as Vorinnfal, stormed into the Terrace of Light and demanded to speak with Adal. As the Naru approached him, Vorinnfal kneeled before him and uttered the following words. "I've seen you in a vision, Naru. My race's only hope for survival lies with you. My followers and I are here to serve you." The defection of Vorinnfal and his followers was the largest loss ever incurred by Kil's forces. And these weren't just any Blood Elves. Many of the best and brightest amongst Kil's scholars and magisters had been swayed by Vorinnfal's influence. And so the faction of Scryers made their home within the city and they started to fight for Adal. In the meantime, Velen, Nobundo and some of their people decided that it was time to leave Outland and search for more help on a different planet. They raided one of the vessels of Tempest Keep, namely the Exile, and they captured it for themselves. The Blood Elves on board did manage to sabotage the ship and it crash landed on Azeroth, where the Draenei would team up with the Alliance. And somewhere amongst all of this, the Dark Portal reopened during the expansion called the Burning Crusade, and we, the people of Azeroth, got our first look at Outland. So that's how all of the Naaru got their own spot in the expansion, and of course the story continued. The Naaru Kur, the one who saved the Draenei from Argus, is still stuck in Oshu'gan, the Draenei their spaceship. This questline is only available to the Horde and it shows that Kur has darkened. This is a state that the Naaru can enter when they're injured and they need to heal themselves. A side effect of this darkened state is that it creates a void that sucks in the spirits of the dead. Kur doesn't do this willingly, he hasn't turned evil, it's just part of the darkened state a Naaru can go into, although it is very rare. In time, a Naaru can regenerate and return to the light, which is seen with the Naaru named Dor. Dor was a Naaru who died when the Draenei crashed on Draenor. The Draenei then placed him within Anduin, and there he also became a void and started to absorb souls. This regenerated the light, and by the time that we do the questline, he's done regenerating and he's once again filled with the light. Dor tells us that there's nothing we can do about it, about these ancestors being absorbed, except destroying them before they become creatures of the void. And we do this by using the soul mirror. Once we use the mirror, we find out that the soul splits apart and we kill off the darkened part, and then I assume that the rest of the spirit goes away and finds eternal peace. We can only hope so. The third and also last Naaru that turned into this darkened state is the Naaru named Mur. Mur was the Naaru captured by Kil'jaeden and sent over to Silvermoon, where his people could suck his power out of him. However, Magister Astelar Bloodsworn was not happy with just sucking the energy out of him, so he and his fellow Magisters worked out a way to use Muru as a source of light. Many of the Blood Elves had stepped away from the light since they felt it had abandoned them after all the events with the Scourge. Now they had a new source for light, and it was Lady Liadrin who was the first to embrace this gift, and she became the first Blood Knight. Eventually they found out that Kil'jaeden was now working with Kil'jaeden and even the Burning Legion. Kil'jaeden, he wanted Muru back, so he attacked his own people in Silvermoon. Now with their source of light gone, Lady Liadrin traveled to Shafra City to meet with his leader Adal to find a new source of power. There, the prophecy made by Velen so long ago was revealed to Liadrin. Silvery moon, washed in blood, led astray into the night, armed with sword of broken light. Broken, then betrayed by one, standing there bestride the sun. At darkest hour, redemption comes, in knightly lady sworn to blood. This is the reason why Muru stayed behind and willingly sacrificed himself for the greater good. Upon hearing this prophecy, Liadrin stepped away from Kil'jaeden and pledged herself and the Blood Knights to Adal's cause, joining the Shattered Sun offensive in its battle against Kil'jaeden and Kil'jaeden. Which leads us to the conclusion, the final confrontation of the Burning Crusade on the Isle of Quel'Danas. Draenei and Blood Elf, Horde and Alliance, they all teamed up to stop Kil'jaeden from entering our world. Piece by piece we unlocked the island, even gaining the support of the Naru named Kiru, until finally the Sunwell Plateau opened up. There we found Muru, again in his darkened state, and unfortunately we had to kill him. During his fight, he turned into Entropius, a void god, which seems to be the state a Naru turns in when you push him beyond this darkened state. Although this Entropius void god could also be the cause of the Blood Elf meddling with him, we're not exactly sure. With Muru out of the way, the road is clear to take on Kil'jaeden and prevent him from entering Azeroth.
The expendable have perished, so be it. Now I shall succeed what Sargeras could not. I will bleed this wretched world, and secure my place as the true master of the Burning Legion. The end has come. Let the unraveling of this world commence.
With the world safe from the Burning Legion, Kil'jaeden back down his portal, Velen and Lady Liadrin show up and talk about the Sunwell and the core of Muru.
Mortal heroes, your victory here today was foretold long ago. My brother's anguished cry of defeat will echo across the universe, bringing renewed hope to all those who still stand against the Burning Crusade. As the Legion's final defeat draws ever nearer, stand proud in the knowledge that you have saved worlds without number from the flame. Just as this day marks an ending, so too does it herald a new beginning. The creature Entropius, whom you were forced to destroy, was once the noble Naru, Muru. In life, Muru channeled vast energies of light and hope. For a time, a misguided few sought to steal those energies.
Our arrogance was unpardonable. We damned one of the most noble beings of all. We may never atone for this sin.
Then fortunate it is that I have reclaimed the noble Naru's spark from where it fell. Where faith dwells, hope is never lost, young Blood Elf.
Can it be?
Gaze now, mortals, upon the heart of Muru. Unblemished, bathed by the light of creation, just as it was at the dawn. In time, the light and hope held within will rebirth more than this mere fount of power. Mayhap they will rebirth the soul of a nation.
Blessed ancestors! I feel it. So much love. So much grace. There are no words. Impossible to describe.
Salvation, young one. It waits for us all. Farewell.
The core of Muru, as it was at the dawn of creation, is used to reignite the Sunwell, giving the Blood Elves a chance for a future without having to drain the power out of beings. So all in all, what we know about the Naaru is that they're beings of pure light who are nearly immortal and hell-bent on fighting the Burning Legion. We don't know where they came from. We don't know where the Ataman crystal came from. We don't know why they're so against the Legion, besides the Legion being evil. We've seen that the Naaru, they can enter different stages, but as I said before, this darkened state, this void state, and even the core of Muru is a very rare thing for the Naaru. Blizzard had the following to say. Because 3 cases of this cycle have been demonstrated in Nagrand, Anduin and Sunwell Plateau, Kur, Dor and Muru respectively, players may have received the wrong impression with regard to the magnitude and rarity of these events. It is exceedingly rare for a Naaru to fall into a void state, and even rarer for a fallen Naaru to be brought back into the light. A Naaru's fall into the void represents a catastrophic loss for the Naaru and for the forces of the light, and it is the saddest, most heart-wrenching event for the Naaru to witness. Conversely, a Naaru being reborn into the light brings renewed hope and sense of purpose to every Naaru. If energy beings could weep tears of joy, this would do it. So just because a couple of the Naaru showed these states, that doesn't mean that it's a common thing. What we do see time and time again is that the Naaru are connected to the light. There's a lot of speculation around this, about them being the source of all light, about them being Elune, the Night Elf goddess, but that's a story I want to save for the next video. For now, thank you very much for watching everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, and until next time guys. See ya! Hello everyone! Those that have been keeping up with the channel, you might have noticed that 4 of the 6 allied races, they've become available in-game. All you need to do is pre-order Battle for Azeroth and have done the requirements to start the quest. Now for the others, we've done a stream highlights, a live commentary as I went through the quest lines. Before the Void Elves, we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into their backgrounds and discover what they're all about. First things first, what exactly do we know about the Void? Well, at the beginning, before life began, before even the cosmos took shape, there was light and there was void. Unfettered by the confines of time and space, the light swelled across all existence in the form of a boundless prismatic sea. Great torrents of living energy flitted through its mirrored depths, their movement conjuring a sympathy of joy and hope. The ocean of light was dynamic and ever-shifting, yet as it expanded, some of its energies faded and dimmed, leaving behind pockets of cold nothingness. From the absence of light in these spaces, a new power coalesced and came to be. This power was the Void, a dark and vampiric force driven to devour all energy, to twist creation inwards to feed upon itself. The Void quickly grew and spread its influence, moving against the flowing waves of light. The mounting tensions between these two opposing yet inseparable energies, they eventually ignited a series of catastrophic explosions, rupturing the fabric of creation and birthing a new realm into existence. In that very moment, the physical universe was born. The energies of the light and the void exploded together. That is what gave life to the universe that we know, including some of its most powerful beings. The duality of void and light, that's probably best shown within the Naaru, and while some say that their holy form is how they're supposed to be, others say that's actually their void side that is their true nature. The holy Naaru, they've helped Velen and the Draenei escape from Argus and the Legion, but we've also seen Zera try to enforce the light upon Illidan. So good or evil is kinda subjective matter when it comes to these beings, all about the intent. Well, still, I personally rather have the purifying light at my side, rather than the endless hunger of the void. Now when a Naru is weakened or falls ill, for example when the Blood Elves started to drain the Naru Mu'uru of its holy light, they'll turn to the void, and if pushed further, they'll become a void god. Mu'uru became Entropius, a being we were forced to defeat, but with time, a Naru can heal and return to its holy state. That's a bit of background as to how the Void came to be, and we'll explain more later on. Now in the current time period, during the Nightborn recruiting questline, we discover that Liadrin is recruiting the Nightborn for the Horde, and invites them to visit Silvermoon. Not only Philistra and the Nightborn made their way to Silvermoon, Alleria Windrunner also journeyed back home. But times have changed, and her former people, the High Elves, are now known as the Blood Elves, and they had to deal with a whole lot of trouble while she was away. She hasn't just come to Silvermoon out of love for this city, she also bears an offer from High King Anduin Wrynn. They don't disclose exactly what the offer is, but I think it's safe to assume that Anduin is trying to recruit the Blood Elves into the Alliance, and Lor'themar is not having it.
I come bearing an offer from High King Anduin Wrynn.
I had hoped your visit was motivated by a love for Silvermoon. Instead, you come at the behest of the Alliance's Boy King. How disappointing.
Cutting words, Lothraxion. Are they yours, I wonder? Or has the dutiful ranger I knew become the mouthpiece of your war chief?
You doubt my words, yet how can we trust your own? Do you deny that the Lords of the Void whisper to you? Did you not surrender yourself to the shadows on Argus?
Dabbling with the void, maintaining control over forces that would drive most to madness, it raises suspicions among some, and the offer is rejected. Alleria would still very much like to see the Sunwell though, and despite Roma thinking that this is a very bad idea, Lor'themar will not deny her pilgrimage to the most sacred sites.
The Sunwell has changed, but its beauty remains. It has been so long.
Stay back!
What is happening?
This is why I demanded that Umbric and his radicals be exiled. Anyone who treats with the Void is a danger to the Sunwell.
I did not intend for my presence to...
It was Velen who used the core of the Naaru to reignite the Sunwell, giving the Blood Elves a chance at the future at the end of the Burning Crusade. It seems like that essence of the Naru, the light and the void, it's responding to those dabbling with the void. Nether Prince Durzan locates the vessel, Arun the Darkener is defeated, and the rift, the portal that Durzan tries to create, that is shut down with the combined might of Alleria, Romath and Phalistra. Windrunner is then ordered to go back to Stormwind, since her presence here it poses a danger to Quel'Thalas, and while her visit did not go as expected, she did learn some very valuable information. There are more out there dabbling with the void, exiled for their studies. Lor'themar might have refused the offer, but perhaps these Blood Elves would be willing to join her and the Alliance.
We do what we
Lady
must
Windrunner,
for those we love.
please begin the search for your exiled kin. Perhaps our champion here can assist you.
We will do our best to locate them, High King.
Alleria Windrunner was not always infused with the void like that. Once upon a time, she was actually a ranger captain for the High Elves and member of the Alliance of Lordaeron. Her journey, together with Turalyon, that would take them away from their home world, their people and their son Arator, as they joined the Army of the Light in their war against Sargeras and the Legion. Where Turalyon was already devoted to the light and under Zera's guidance kept on following that path, Alleria did her best to join him, but her destiny was not to walk in the light, rather to embrace the shadow. Her first contact with these dark forces was when they raided a small Legion prison world. A living avatar Shadow was able to wrap its incorporeal hand around Alleria's throat and slam dark magic into her mind, trying to kill her. Only an instant passed before she called down the light upon her attacker, but in that moment, when the touch of Shadow had been upon her, her mind was transported elsewhere. She saw visions of herself walking upon the surface of Argus. A vision where she stood in front of the Emerald Star and felt its terrible warmth on her face, it reaching out to her and begging for help. Another where she saw herself stepping off a cliff, falling into an infinite darkness, smiling all the way, peace in her eyes. The light then finally crashed down upon her attacker, destroying it instantly, but this encounter was the light and shadow colliding within her soul and would change her path forever. She would indeed walk the surface of Argus with Turalyon at her side, but their presence was detected by the Legion, and before they knew it, their escape pod was surrounded by the demonic forces. In a desperate attempt, they tried to charge their lines, but there were simply too many. They were about to be overwhelmed, imprisoned by the Legion, but Alleria embraced the powers of the void, and she got them out of there. Despite saving his life, Turalyon would rather have died than to see her fall to evil, and when they touched, pain shot through them both. The light and shadow cannot exist together, so where he returned to Zera and the Army of the Light, she set out to learn how to endure the darkness, and she knew of the perfect teacher named the Locus-Walker. The holy Dreadlord Lothraxion had told her about him, how he had become a master of the void, and this teacher was an Ethereal, a race of beings that did not always look like the mummy creatures as we see them today. Once upon a time, their world of Karesh came under attack by Dimensius the All-Devouring. He opened countless gateways into the void and the Twisted Nether, all around their planets, bathing Karesh in arcane and dark energies. In response, they used every scrap of their advanced technology to construct magical barriers around their cities, which did indeed block the dark energies, but the unimpeded flood of arcane energy, it tore away their corporal shells and infused their souls with enough energy so that they could subsist without a body. They started to bind themselves with enchanted strips of cloth to provide their souls with enough structure to survive. Now this alter state, it actually proved to be a blessing in disguise, as their enhanced minds and magical abilities, it allowed the Ethereals to fight Dimensius and his limited forces to a standstill. Over the years though, Dimensius grew so powerful that he was able to summon armies of fellow void creatures, which in turn forced the Ethereals to flee into the twisting nether. So Alleria tracked the Locus-Walker down and learned a whole lot about the void, its views of the light, how to wield its power, how to resist those whispers. But sadly, she had to cut her studies short, as Tauren was in danger, and she returned to save his life. Despite that, Zera still did not approve of the path she had chosen, and since the elf refused to renounce the void and pledge obedience to the light, they placed her in jail. Shortly after, that's where we come in, as we follow Velen back to his homeworld of Argus to take the battle to the Legion. We meet up with Tauren, the Army of the Light, and Alleria, who's been able to break herself out of jail, but she still worries about what Zera is going to do. Not to worry though, Illidan Stormrage, he has no interest in this enforced destiny placed upon him by the Naru, as he destroys her, claiming that there can be no chosen one and that only we can save ourselves. We have to carve out our own destiny, and for Alleria, that meant reuniting with the Locus-Walker and finishing what she started.
Can you, though? With your attachments?
What are you talking about?
Why, your mate, of course. How does he feel about your choices?
Farewell. Tauren trusts me to make hard decisions, and I him.
I am not talking about trust. How can you expect to embrace the shadow with the light shining so brightly at your side?
Without the light, there is no shadow, teacher.
More of his kind were dabbling in the void, but none of them worthy to follow in his footsteps. Instead, Alleria is still his best student, while the rest of them will simply be overtaken in their conquest of spreading the void and plunging the universe into darkness. Here we see them trying to cultivate the void, calling it to Argus, but we stop them, and after careful consideration, the Locus-Walker decides to give Alleria a second chance. His people are busy summoning a being of darkness that will provide enough energy for her to start over. Of course, we help her with fighting it, we collect the heart of a demigod, but there is more power of the void being drawn to Argus. When Velen took his people away from the Legion, the Naru Lura decided to stay behind to buy him and his people enough time to get away. Over the years, she turned to her dark state, pulsing with void energy, which has drawn the attention of the Ethereals. Within the seat of the Triumvirate, we take care of those trying to claim that power, while the Naru's elegant song of courage and hope, it has become a shadowy dirge of despair. She calls to the void, becoming immune to all attacks as rifts open up within the chamber, but it also creates an opportunity for Alleria as we kill the Rift Warden. She uses her mastery over the void to break the shield around the Dark Naaru. This in turn gives us the opportunity that we needed to end her suffering.
Survived. Interesting. How do you feel?
The voices are louder now, more insistent, but they do not control me.
You asked me to teach you to use the void as a weapon. Now that weapon is you.
It seems my training is complete.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to test the limits of this newfound power. Come.
That happens off-screen, but she is able to control the powers of the Void, and she uses it to help us claim victory over Sargeras and the Legion. Back on Azeroth, we now have Blood Elves exiled from their city, trying to follow in her footsteps, trying to find their own way to the Void, and perhaps they can become our allies. We follow the trail of Master Umbric through the Ghostlands, tracking down his notes, and as we go about, we discover that they were not the first ones seeking to harness the Void. Darkened Naaru, trader of the High Elves, who sold his people to Arthas and actually allowed the Scourge gain access to the Sunwell, which then in turn corrupted it as they resurrect Kel'Thuzad. He too went on the quest to seek the power of the Void.
Drathea's quest for power led him to seek the fragments of an ancient world, one teetering on the brink of the Void itself. His note said it existed within a rift in the very fabric of reality. He never found this place, but I have succeeded where he failed. The way will soon be open to us. Drathea believed this rift held an ancient object of unspeakable might. Perhaps this will be the key that allows us to gain control over the shadows.
Based on these notes, I believe I can reopen the passage to this world he spoke of. Let me see.
Alleria reopens the passage to the world that he spoke of. We go to the Logres Rifts.
Magister Umbric, I am Alleria Windrunner.
Alleria Windrunner? How did... My, what an unexpected honor. My people and I heard tales of what transpired on Argus. As you might imagine, we have a keen interest in your interaction with the Darkened Naaru.
Another time, perhaps. This champion and I have been searching for you. We knew of your exile from Silvermoon and felt we shared common ground.
Indeed. Like you, we believe the Void can be used to defend life rather than consume it. We have made great progress, Lady Windrunner, but many mysteries remain. Take this cube, for instance. It is an ancient device, perhaps even predating life on Azeroth. It seems to have been locked, and we cannot yet open it.
Careful, Umbric. Answers to such mysteries often come at a price. Look out!
At last. The future I foresaw has come to pass. Thank you for opening the way.
Show yourself! Who are you?
Names are of little consequence. The more interesting question is, what shall you become?
Over here!
My people were reshaped by the Void, stripped of the limitations of flesh. We offer you the same gift.
Resist the whispers, Umbric. This gift you are offered is little more than enslavement.
Even shattered as it is, this place echoes with the whispers of the Great Ones who were slain, and the hatred of he who broke this world.
Dark forces surge through these ashen stones. No wonder the Ethereals were drawn here.
It's interesting that he mentions whispers of the Great Ones who were slain here and the hatred of he who broke the world. The whole reason why Sargeras created this Burning Legion, and by extension why he showed up on Argus, why the Orcs became the Horde, why they invaded Azeroth, why Alleria joined the Alliance of Lordaeron. That all began because of the Void Lords. They are dark spirits within the Void that want to twist reality into a realm of eternal torment. Pretty much the counterparts, that would be the Titans. They were seeking for more of their kin, slumbering world souls, which they could help wake up, and in the process they brought order to the universe. The Void Lord's gaze fell upon them, and they were envious of their power. They wanted to corrupt one of these world-shaping Titans into an instrument of their will. To achieve this goal, the Void Lords struggled to manifest in the physical universe. As they did so, their energy seeped into reality, warping some of the unsuspecting denizens of creation. Yet the noble and virtuous Titans, they proved to be impervious to this insidious corruption. Eventually, the Void Lords figured to change their target, to go for the more vulnerable nascent Titans before they had awakened. Pooling their powers together, they hurled dark creatures throughout the physical universe, hoping that some of them would smash into a world soul. An unknown number of the Void Lord's creations hurtled through the Great Dark. They contaminated mortal worlds and everything else touched marched in their blind search for this nascent titan. In time, these wicked beings would become known as the Old Gods, and the titan Sargeras, he discovered them as well as the plans of the Void Lords. In that moment, the champion of the Pantheon, he felt fear. They could not be allowed to succeed. His heart ached with sorrow, and with a heave of his mighty blade, Sargeras split the corrupted world in two, effectively killing the nascent spirit inside. Now, of course, he had no idea how many more of these slumbering spirits the Old Gods had been able to infect. In his mind, all that they could do was burn away all of creation to stand a chance at thwarting the Void Lord's ultimate goal. Even a lifeless universe was better than one dominated by the Void. Life had taken root in the cosmos once before. Perhaps after the physical universe was scoured of corruption, life would take root once again. That's the reason why he started his Burning Crusade and became the Sargeras as we know him as today. It's possible that Locus is actually the first planet that Sargeras destroyed after he found out about the Void Lords and their plans. We have some new allies to save though, so we take on the forces of the Void, we shut down 3 of the Void Forges, and we take out Turzan.
The transformation incomplete must be finished.
The only thing that will be finished here is you.
Alleria, champion, my people are free, but we have been changed, and the voices.
Turzan tried to tear away your mortality, to make you like him, a slave to his hunger. But your fate is still your own, Umbric. I can teach you to quiet the Whispers, to make the shadows serve you, instead of you serving them.
My arrogance was nearly our undoing. I dabbled with powers far beyond my control. If you will train us, Alleria, we will follow where you lead.
I sense the powers at your command. They are considerable. You would make valuable allies of the Alliance.
Silvermoon turned its back on us long ago. Today, we are reborn, and it is fitting that we walk a new path. From this day forth, the Alliance has our loyalty.
And in turn, I pledge to aid you on your journey. Our champion and I will inform High King Wrynn of this news. Then I will return, so that we can begin your training.
It will take some time for us to adjust to our new forms. We look forward to your return, Lady Windrunner. And Champion, you have our deepest thanks.
High King Wrynn, our champion and I found the Sin'dorei exiles. Like me, they have been changed by the Void. But their hearts and minds remain their own. I will be their guide. I will train them to control the Whispers of Shadow. In return, they will fight for the Alliance against all its foes.
It may take time for these Void Elves to earn the trust of some in our ranks. But so long as they adhere to your teachings, they are welcome in the Alliance. You have done us a great service this day, Lady Windrunner. Champion, you have my thanks.
It is an honor to serve once more, High King. For the Alliance.
For the Alliance!
The Void. A force of infinite hunger. Its whispers have broken the will of dragons, and lured even the Titan's own children into madness. Sages and scholars fear the Void, but we understand a truth that they do not. That the Void is a power to be harnessed, to be bent by a will strong enough to command it. The Void has shaped us, changed us, but you will become its master. Wield the shadows as a weapon to save our world and defend the Alliance. Aim true. Some will tell you that the light is the only path, the one weapon that can stop the enemies of Azeroth. But we see alternatives, many roads, many possibilities that are open to us.
There will be those who doubt you, who question your resolve, your ability to harness powers that have caused the downfall of weaker wills. Together, we will prove them wrong.
Use the lessons I have taught you to maintain control. Become a weapon for the Alliance, even as you skirt the edge of darkness.
Welcome, friend. I am King Anduin Wrynn. As a new member of the Alliance, I wish to greet you personally. The Void Elves may be a recent addition to our ranks, but Alleria Windrunner is one of our greatest heroes. Under her tutelage, the powers you wield will aid our cause. These are troubled times for Azeroth. In the days to come, you will face many trials, fight many foes. Know that you are never alone against the darkness, for the Alliance stands with you. I look forward to hearing of your progress. Something tells me we will speak again soon. Safe travels. Though you walk among the shadows, you are a beacon of hope to us all.
And that's how the outcast Blood Elves transformed into Void Elves and now joined the Alliance. Their transformation and path into the Void, it's a little bit different than that of Alleria, but at the same time, they too must master the Whispers and maintain constant focus and discipline. One must wonder though, if Darkened Naaru was dabbling with the powers of the Void, did their Whispers actually influence his choices? Did the Void Lords plan ahead and want the Sunwell to become corrupted, so that in time it could be reignited with a core of a Darkened Naaru? Alleria, during her training, has seen some visions, part of them from the perspective of the Void, but some also described as destiny. A journal mentions a woman wrapped in dark swirlies, leading a herd of blind sheep, and at the hour of her third death, she ushers in their coming. Alleria feels like she already died twice, but I think we'll save that subject for a later date, as I've already been going on for long enough. You now know how the Void Elves came to be and joined the Alliance. Good luck, brave hero, with your adventures throughout Azeroth. Say that you're looking for some more information on all the things that we talked about today, then check out the related WoW article in the description down below. As always, thank you so very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, guys. See ya! Hello, everyone. Last week we talked about the Naru, what they were and what they did within the story. Today I want to take a look at a subject that's linked to them, namely the light in World of Warcraft. This subject is huge, so I'll do my best to tell you as much as possible, and if any of my information is wrong, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments down below. Let's begin. Like all sources of power, the way that the light is shown within the game is not the same as it is in the lore. For example, right now you push a button and an icon says that you're buffed, blessed even, or you push another button and a shield pops up around you. That's not how the light works within the lore. Let me read you a bit so you get a picture as to how it's experienced by the people of Azeroth. A soft light began to glow around his raised hands. It moved to envelop his body and then rose to hover above the crowd, showering down upon those who were prepared to fight and those who loved them. I pray that you fight with courage and decency and honor. I pray that your weapons be guided by the justness of what you do. I urge you to remember, as you go into the heat of battle, to refuse to allow hate's entrance into your heart. Keep it a sanctuary, a temple to the memory of those so tragically slain. Remember that each moment you are fighting for justice, not genocide. Victory, not vengeance. And I know with all my being that if you go into battle with these things so firmly in your heart, that no anger, no pain can shake them. We will triumph. Blessings on you, soldiers of the Alliance. Varian felt the light brush him almost like a physical thing. It seems to caress him, to enter his heart, as Anduin had said. He felt calmer, stronger, more peaceful. He watched his boy speak with the pure passion of his soul, watched how swiftly and sweetly the light came to bless him, saw how the people loved him. That's a small part as the Alliance fleet moved to attack Orgrimmar after the bombing of Theramore, and the light is a physical thing in the world of Azeroth. It's not just some weird concept that nobody has felt or seen, it's something that they nearly can touch. Resurrection is also a very rare thing within the lore, but Anduin is gifted. Even Prophet Velen, the leader of the Draenei, has noticed this, and Anduin, in Varian's short story, manages to resurrect his father. Let us leave this place. Jaina pleaded, reaching for him, but the prince pushed them both away and wiped his eyes in sudden fury. "No, this is not how it ends," he shook the king. "Do you hear me, father? A Wrynn prince will not again watch a loved one die before him. This is not our fate." Anduin screamed into the sky, and the clouds seemed to part in sympathy. The others present watched in awe as the prince closed his eyes and slowly began to chant. At first, it was a soft and gentle sound, but as his voice rose in crescendo, it became a beautiful and powerful song. As the words came, his hands began to glow with white light. Faint at first, then brighter and brighter, until it was competing even with the setting sun, bathing the entire cemetery in the shadowless light of midday. The song reached a fever pitch, and the young prince lifted his eyes and voice to the heavens, calling to the very heart of the cosmos for a source of divine power. Suddenly, liquid rays brighter than 1,000 suns burst from Anduin's fingertips, penetrating the king's body and painting everything in a brilliant yellow glow. The guards gasped and stepped back, shielding their eyes as Varian's entire being was rocked by an influx of pure light. And at the center of it all was Anduin, holding his father close, while a vortex of infinite beauty danced between them. Then, in sharp contrast to the intense swirling energy billowing all around, the prince began to speak with a melodious and gentle voice as he carefully laid his hands on the immobile king's forehead and quietly, peacefully began to pray. So that's how the light is portrayed within the lore. Resurrecting is something unique, and it takes an incredibly gifted and powerful person to actually wield the light into resurrecting someone. The philosophy and source of power behind the light, well, that depends on what race you're looking at. So let's take a look at each race and see what their philosophy is, starting with the humans. It's unknown when or how the light showed itself for the first time and how the first humans started to wield the light. What we do know is that the light began as a very religious thing. It was wielded by priests who followed the teachings of the church. The following information is taken from the WoW RPG, but the teachings as they were back then were based on 3 virtues: respect, tenacity, and compassion. Respect for both yourself and others. The Holy Light teaches that you have to be aware of yourself and your personal happiness, but you must also see the connection between others and the universe. It recognizes war and that sometimes fighting is necessary, but as a greater goal it strives to make the universe a better place instead of standing in its way. Tenacity, since being part of the Holy Light means that you need to dedicate your life to serve the philosophy. You must realize that if you truly believe that there's a connection between yourself and the universe, then you can't help but affect each other, no matter how great of a change this might be. This change could be teaching others, or perhaps even joining people who think the same to create a bigger change. After the first 2 concepts are mastered, the student can take on the final virtue: compassion. If a follower of the light serves another to increase his happiness, his bond with the universe grows stronger. The happiness he receives by helping someone also strengthens himself and the universe, and he is able to affect the universe even more. But this virtue is taught last because it's both the most powerful and most dangerous virtue. Followers must fully understand compassion and realize that helping too much or helping too little is equally bad. They need to learn how to identify who is truly in need and who can grow on their own. So those are the teachings, the virtues that the followers of the church try to uphold. Priests who could heal, empower, pray, and do all things holy and righteous, and things were good. That is, until the first Horde invasion. The Horde invaded Azeroth, and they came into this world with the Dark Portal. Stormwind was the first target, and during that battle, the Holy Order of Northshire clerics tried to help their brothers with defending the land. These are the holy men of our kingdom. Their spiritual leadership keeps both the people and the troops of Azeroth focused upon our mission of everlasting peace. Their ability to channel the spirit of humanity through their bodies makes them truly wondrous, and the stories of their ability to heal the sick and injured, as well as being able to affect the perception of others, are miraculous in nature. The transgressions against humanity by the orcs have forced them to devise ways to defend themselves, but their true path remains the healing of men's souls. As we know, Stormwind and Northshire Abbey fell. The people evacuated to Lordaeron, and Archbishop Alonsus Val head of the Holy Order of Northshire Clerics, realized that the priests needed a way to defend themselves against such a threat like the orcs. Combine the teachings of the church, the power of the Holy Light and the skills of a warrior all into one. The first Paladins joined the ranks of the Alliance and they called themselves the Order of the Silver Hand. The Paladins were a great success and a key element in winning the war, since the Horde started to use Death Knights. Although the Holy Light was linked to those who followed the church, a religion, later it would move away from that and turn into a matter of conviction. If you had faith within yourself, within the cause that you're fighting for, then the light would respond. We even see this during the first Horde invasion. Tauren, one of the first Paladins, was doubting his faith in the light. He didn't understand how the light could unite all creatures, all souls, is something as monstrous, as cruel, and as purely evil like the Horde walked this world. He overheard Doomhammer saying that the Horde did not come from this world, and he realized that the Holy Light did unite all life, everything in this world, but not the orcs. For they did not belong here. This was the faith that Tauren needed in order to wield the Holy Light with such an enormous power that he managed to defeat Doomhammer. It wasn't necessarily because he was right or because the teachings of the church were right. It was because he had faith. He believed to be right and the light offered its powers. Later we again see this with Arthas in the Culling of Strathholm. Arthas made the choice to purge the city, and as he was killing all the civilians, the light started to dim. Not because his choice was evil, or perhaps even his choice was wrong, it was because he was doubting himself and the choices he had made.
May the light have mercy, for I will not.
Let it also be something very clear, the light doesn't judge one's actions. That's why certain factions, the Scarlet Crusade for example, can still wield the light. They're a threat to us, and some might even call them evil, but the light simply doesn't care. The Scarlet Crusade believes in what they do, and what they do is right, so they can still wield the powers of the light. There is a short story called Unbroken that changes the rules when it comes to the light. Like I just said, the light responds to a conviction, but in this story a Draenei, Nobundo, is disconnected from the lights by an external force. When the Horde and Draenei were fighting on Draenor, the orcs marched on to Shafra city. Several defenders were left behind to make it look like the orcs killed all the Draenei, and Nobundo was one of those defenders. An explosion knocked him off his feet and a strange red mist creeped into the city. The Draenei who inhaled the mist, they started to vomit blood and would eventually turn into broken or even lost ones. Another effect of this mist is that Nobundo could no longer communicate with the light. We don't know exactly where the mist came from. It suggested it come from Kil'jaeden, but we're not sure, so there's a force out there that can take away someone's ability to use the holy light. So where does the light come from? Is there a source of power? Well, the philosophies behind that, behind the source, are different for each race. Dwarves, they share the same faith as humans, and the gnomes picked up the training in the light when they joined the Alliance. Worgens are cursed humans, so I'd imagine that they have the same views towards the light, although the Worgen could also now follow the Night Elves they believe when it comes to a loon. Night Elves also wield the light, but they don't follow the same religion or the same beliefs. Night Elves believe that their power comes from a loon, the female moon goddess. A loon is not a god that just wants people to be peaceful. In fact, she's quite the opposite. An aspect of a loon is her warrior side, and those that follow her ways are trained in both the ways of the light and the ways of the warrior. Ny'alotha Whispers is probably the most well-known priestess of a loon, but Night Elves have been worshipping her for millennia. Those that worship her are part of the Sisterhood of Elune, and Ny'alotha became their leader during the War of the Ancients. She was able to wield Elune's gift in incredible ways, without any effort, so she was extremely powerful and very gifted. Ny'alotha did not see this as something that she did. She just saw herself as a vessel for Elune's will. She can ask Elune for guidance, she can ask Elune for help, but Elune does not always respond, and Ny'alotha respects this. Elune has shielded Ny'alotha, summoned warriors of the light, moonbolts from the sky, a weapon made out of light, and her powers are not even limited to just Azeroth. She even aided Ny'alotha within the Emerald Nightmare by pushing back the powers of the old god N'Zoth.
You have chosen a path of darkness. Mother Moon, guide my hand. Allow me to bring rest to these misbegotten souls.
Elune is very interesting, to say the least, and you would assume that she is truly a god within World of Warcraft. However, Prophet Velen, leader of the Draenei, has suggested that the way Elune works, the way she grants powers, it's very similar to the way that the Naru work. He even suggested this to Tyrande, and you don't suggest this without a reason, but Tyrande quickly dismissed it and told him that he shouldn't bring this up again, especially not with the other priestess. It is said that Elune is the one who gave birth to the demigod Cenarius, and Cenarius taught the ways of the druids to the Night Elves, beginning with Malfurion. The Night Elf society formed itself to reflect the balance between Earth and Moon, where the males became druids and the females followed the way of Elune. Although the majority of Elune's followers is still female, the order recently started to accept males into the ranks. When it comes to the Draenei, we know for certain that it's the Naru who give them their power, and it was the Naru who taught them the ways of the light. When other races only have folklore or legends or just stories, with the Naru we know for certain that it was them, and we know that they are beings that you can actually see, that can actually guide you, that can actually empower you. It makes you wonder if Velen didn't tell the truth to Tyrande, if Elune isn't actually a Naru, but that's just pure speculation. The Tauren only recently picked up the lights, and the Tauren are all about balance within nature. Don't kill too many animals, just enough to feed yourself. Fight only when it's needed. Preserve the balance. Tahu Sagewind and Aponi Brightmane were thinking about the Tauren, their way of life, and if perhaps the Tauren were overlooking something. They had druids who followed the Night Elves their belief with a loon. Only the Tauren, they called it Musha, the left eye of the Earth Mother. So if balance is key, why did they forget about the right eye of the Earth Mother, Anshi, the sun? They followed this train of thought, and eventually this led to Taurens using the light both as priests and as paladins.
May the eternal sun shine upon thee.
The Blood Elves used to believe the same as the humans, but after the events of Warcraft 3, with the Scourge and their Sunwell destroyed, most of them lost their faith in the light. Kil'jaeden Sunstrider would eventually find a Naru named Muru and send him over the Silvermoon as a source of power. Magister Estelar Bloodsworn found a way to suck the power of light out of Muru, and they used this to once again wield the light, creating the Blood Knights. Kil'jaeden would later want his Naru back, so he attacked his own people, and Lady Liadrin traveled to Shafra to talk to Adal and hopefully find a new source of power. At the end of the Burning Crusade, the Sunwell is reignited using the core of Muru, and now the Blood Elves draw their holy power from the restored Sunwell.
Blessed ancestors, I feel it. So much love. So much grace. There are no words.
The goblins wield the light with willpower, driven by greed. I couldn't find any other information about the goblins, like do they have a philosophy behind it, do they go to church or whatnot. As far as we know, they are just very greedy and they found a way to wield the light with that willpower. The trolls can also wield the light, but they don't follow the humans' their religion. They don't have a source of power like the Naru or the Sunwell. The trolls have the Loa. Loa is a term that the trolls use for spirits that were on Azeroth even before the Titans. And some of them are very weak, while others are incredibly powerful and can actually grant powers or visions to those who worship them. Certain demigods that we actually name, for example, the ones that we've seen in Mount Hyjal, like Cenarius, Goldrin, Aviana, trolls see those as Loa. That's where the troll priests, they draw their power from, voodoo. But so far we don't know exactly what Loa is granting them what power. That hasn't been confirmed yet. Pandaren are rather new to the game, and as far as I could find, there isn't an official source of light. The Pandaren in Pandaria do refer to the power as it being the light, while Jojo from the Wandering Isle doesn't even know what the light is.
May the light guide you.
I don't believe that Pandaren have the same religion behind it, just like the humans for example. We do have priests who follow Chiji, the red crane of hope, but we also have pandas from the Wandering Isle, so it makes you wonder as to what religion those pandas follow. They probably discovered it like the first humans did, a source of power that existed all around them and they just had to figure out how to tap into that power. Orcs are the only race who don't wield the light, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they can't. The light can come from different sources. All it takes is knowledge and willpower. Just because they don't, doesn't mean that they can't. Although you could argue that the corruption of the orcs, the demon blood in their veins, that might be the same as the red mist that we've seen with Nobundo. So for all we know, that could disconnect them from the light. We don't have anything to confirm this or even deny this. As far as we know, it's just a cultural thing and they don't use it because they don't have to use it. Which brings us to the final race that can wield the light, but should probably try not to, the Forsaken. Forsaken can actually wield the light, only when they do, it causes them terrible pain. When undead channel the light, it feels to them as if their entire bodies are being consumed in righteous fire. Forsaken healed by the light, whether the healer is Forsaken or not, are effectively categorized by the effects. Sure, the wound is healed, but the healing effect is cripplingly painful. Thus, Forsaken priests are beings of unwavering willpower. Forsaken and Death Knight tanks suffer nobly when they have a priest or a paladin as a healer in the group. Instead of the light, the Forsaken turns to a darker side, the Cult of Forgotten Shadow. Natalie Sealine, a human bishop from Lordaeron, started to study the orc necrolytes who had invaded Azeroth. She first did this as a way to counter these necrolytes, but later she became obsessed with why these powers existed at all, and she started to preach about the necessity of balance between darkness and light. She eventually died. Her books were locked away, but the Forsaken priest found them again and used her studies to form the Cult of Forgotten Shadow. I've been trying to find more information about Shadow Priest, but it's one of the elements in lore that hasn't really been explained. We have this information, we have this background, and it makes sense for the Forsaken to use this counterpart, this balance, since the light itself, it actually hurts them. It does raise the question as to why other races are also able to wield the shadows.
Prince Anduin, we've come to take you home. Come quietly now.
I'm sorry, but I won't. I'm sure you understand my reasons.
Eh? Oh, you're absolutely right, Prince Anduin. You're free to go as you please.
We've even seen Anduin Wrynn use mind control in Mist of Pandaria, so the question is, did all those who follow the ways of the light also accept the ways of the shadow? Is the cult of Forgotten Shadow no longer just a cult, but a widespread belief? I couldn't find any information on this, and I would love to see more of this story developed within the game. Perhaps Warlords of Draenor will be a good opportunity to delve into this subject. During BlizzCon they announced that the Naru, the Light and Blood Elves will play a part within the story, but they didn't reveal any details. Judging by all of this, I wonder what they're going to do. We have Velen and his prophecy with the Army of Light. Is this going to be a stepping stone? Will Anduin start his journey to become the leader of the Army of Light? We have Lady Liadrin and the Blood Elves who are forever linked to the Draenei and the Naru. Is this going to be their chance to pay their debts? Will we see more information about Nobundo, the Broken, Kil'jaeden, the Red Mist disconnected from the light? All these details, I can't wait to see what they're going to do with it. There is still so much to uncover when it comes to the light, and Warlords of Draenor has a lot of potential. For now, I hope you all enjoyed my information, my story on the light in World of Warcraft. There's still so much that I would like to cover, like the Ashbringer story, or the dying soldier in Northrend who gets the Adal to visit him and take him up to heaven like some sort of angels. And of course, the major question, are the Naru the source behind all the light?
The Naru have not forgotten us.
So many stories, yet so little time, and for now I'm going to wrap this video up. Thank you very much for watching everyone, subscribe if you like my videos, and until next time guys, see ya!
Hello everyone! It's been a while since we had a look or listen to the Whispers of Il'gynoth, a tiny grove of the behemoth N'Zoth, first encountered in the Emerald Nightmare raid, and then made a return in Ny'alotha. Over the years, a lot of cool ideas have been passed around to explain the meaning behind these maddening whispers, because, well, at the end of the day, they can be applied to many different things, and even now, they still remain very fluid. The shadow, the void, it seeks every possible path and sees them all as truth. They have inside information to share, hints at things to come. Keep in mind that there will be spoilers ahead for Shadowlands. But first, let us go back in time and listen to the whispers that were given to us in Legion.
5 keys to open our way. 5 torches to light our path. The Lord of Ravens will turn the key.
In Legion, we teamed up with Khadgar. Together, the 5 pillars of creation, to seal off the gateway at the Tomb of Sargeras. While successful in that mission, ultimately, it did lead to Illidan opening up a massive rift between Argus and Azeroth. This did give us the chance to save the Pantheon, lock Sargeras away, but not before he took his mighty sword and took a swing at the planet and the Titan Spirit inside, which led to a whole bunch of Azerite popping up across the surface.
The King of Diamonds has been made a pawn. Its surface blazes bright, masking shadows below. From the earth he draws strength. Our earth, our strength. Her heart is a crater, and we have filled it.
In Battle for Azeroth, we teamed up with Magni Bronzebeard, the King of Diamonds, to save our world from the damage inflicted by Sargeras. Magni could also be the one that draws the strength from the earth. Alternatively, they could also be talking about the Black Prince Rathian, who joined us later. Either way, Azeroth is corrupted by the old gods, locked away beneath its surface, and in the Chamber of Hearts, we did everything we could to heal her, filling up our Heart of Azeroth, which did save the world, but was also turned against us.
Flesh is his gift. He is your true creator. To find him, drown yourself in the circle of stars. At the hour of her 3rd death, she ushers in our coming.
The old gods are responsible for the Curse of Flesh, which was intended to weaken the Titan Forged, make them more vulnerable to their corruption, literally give them flesh. It's how, for example, Mechanomes became the gnomes, or Vrykul turned into humans. Now ultimately, the Circle of Stars, it proved to be a location within the Eternal Palace, which led into the final prison, that of N'Zoth. It was there where Queen Azshara turned the Heart of Azeroth against us, released the old god from his prison, the hour of her 3rd death. That would have been the 3rd time that Azeroth, quote-unquote, died. The first time being the Sundering at the end of the War of the Ancients. The 2nd time was the Shattering with the Cataclysm at the hands of Deathwing. And then the 3rd time, from the stabbing, if you will, us failing to save her from the wounds inflicted by Sargeras, the old gods or N'Zoth breaking out, and Ny'alotha claiming the world. Their coming was thankfully prevented. The world was saved, even cleansed of the foul old god's infection, at least if we believe Magni. Again, these whispers, they can be read in so many different ways, but this is the one that I found fitting. So when I say this applies to this, it doesn't mean that is actually the truth. It's just the way that these whispers make sense to me. Which also means that the whispers of Il'gynoth that we got from Legion, they talk about moments that either set up or played out during Battle for Azeroth. There is, however, one whisper in this set that I haven't been able to place in that expansion quite yet.
The boy king serves at the master's table. 3 lies will he offer you.
Pretty safe to say by this point that the boy king is Anduin. That nickname has been used a fair few times now to describe him. There's also the novel Shadows Rising, where at the end we see Anduin confronting Syrah Moonwarden, the little lion. He's been dealing with the death of his father, ruling Stormwind and guiding the Alliance, the whispers of N'Zoth coursing through Azeroth, and now he's trying to uphold a tenuous peace between the Alliance and the Horde. Sylvanas Windrunner must be brought to justice, a quest that pushes people to the extreme. Where is she? Anduin wasted no time. Where is Sylvanas Windrunner? Syrah Moonwarden rolled her eyes and glanced away. Know where you will find her. Even if you did, it is far, far too late. You have lost. My spies tell me the opposite is true, the king told her. They say you were not successful in destroying Bonsamdi, that your dark range of forces were annihilated, and the Thanos Blightcaller escaped only because your mistress intervened. She said nothing, but her lip curled at the mention of his name. Do you know how many deaths you have caused? How much misery you've brought upon my kingdom? Anduin crouched, crowding her. Do you know? Do you care? Sira smiled. Smile all you like, creature. There's little hope for you now. Your people will want to speak with you, want to understand how you could serve Sylvanas. You realize this, yes? The Dark Warden considered that for a moment. Jaina's magic flame dancing across her pale, pale face. I know it, yes, and I feel nothing. Once more, you've wasted the little time you have left. Anduin made a soft sound of disgust and stood, hovering over her, considering her for a long and tense spell. A wisp of purple energy traveled down his arm, gathering in his palm. It happened in a blink, coming and going, dissipating before Matthias could see for certain what the king had done. It startled Anduin enough to make him stumble backward. Shaw felt Jaina's eyes upon him, and he glanced her way. If he was rattled before, the fear etched upon Jaina's brow shook him to the core. Anduin winced, breathing hard, shaking out his hands before leaning back against the wall. Shaw knew better than to be staring when the king's eyes began to roam their faces for a reaction. Sira threw her head and laughed herself hoarse. Tell me, she mocked in a sing-song voice, how does it feel to know you have lost? For time will prove it so. Ah well, take heart, falling lion. You will serve well. You will serve well.
So the pressure on Anduin, eventually it's, a scene where it boils up and then a certain thing happens to him. And people were wondering, or myself were wondering as well, the intention behind that scene. Was it Void? Was it Jailer? Can you explain a little bit more about it?
Oh, we're talking about the very end?
Yeah.
Yeah, the very okay. So again, I was given limited information on this. This was explicitly told that I had to do this, so there's clearly plans there. But yeah, there's some sort of dark energy that he is reaching for in that moment of rage and frustration and sadness. So yeah, I don't know a ton. It was like he needs to, during this confrontation, there needs to be a surge of dark power that comes from him, and the people around him that care for him need to be taken aback by it. So
okay, so definitely
that's about all I know about that.
Well, we do have Sira
that I can say,
who then tells him you will serve as well, you will serve as well, like falling line, which was a nice line. Have you ever heard of the Whispers of Il'gynoth by chance?
I have, yes.
Is there something there? Maybe.
Again, we're getting into stuff that is dangerous.
Dangerous territory. We're gonna veer away. Dangerous territory. Let's not even go there. Let us take it.
I mean, I will say, all I'll say is that scene specifically is everything is extremely intentional.
So with an eye on Shadowlands, it seems that our Anduin is going to serve at the jailer's table in whatever capacity that might be. Might be related to passing on leadership of the Alliance, his pursuit of Sylvanas, or in a more literal sense, since at this point in time on the beta, Anduin is still trapped within the Tower of Torghast, keeping the jailer company. Realize he will offer you is definitely an interesting one, as it might be about Anduin lying, or you can refer it to the jailer offering lies. What those lies might be from either of them, I have no idea. Curious to find out though, and cool to see that these whispers do eventually find their spot in the story. Onward, the next set of them, offered to us when Il'gynoth returned, this time in Ny'alotha.
When their mistress beckons, 9 ravens take flight. Each seeks a prize to earn her favor. The Golden One claims a vacant throne.
With Sylvanas shattering the sky above Icecrown and making her way into the Shadowlands. Her agents are then sent out to capture some high-profile targets. It might also be related to Helya or some other mistress, but for now, when they say 9 ravens, and we know that 9 Valkyr enter the bargain with the Banshee Queen to get her out of hell, I would right now build a connection between Sylvanas, the 9 ravens, the 9 Valkyr, going after these prime targets. Thrall, Bane, Jaina and Anduin, they're taken into the Maw. They also try to get their hands on Tyrande, but her Night Warrior powers, they prove too much to handle. and with Anduin gone, it's Turelion that sits upon the throne of Stormwind. In King Anduin's absence, I've been entrusted with the protection of Alliance citizens. It feels like lifetimes ago that I helped a young Varian Wrynn secure his throne. Now I am charged with keeping it safe for his son. The Fourth War took a terrible toll on the Alliance. Our military might has been depleted. Stormwind's nobles are keen to see our defenses restored. Reclaiming Stromgarde was a good first step. Perhaps there are other holdings of the old Alliance that could be secured. What we found out at BlizzCon is now also repeated in-game. The Alliance, they've won both the Darkshore and the Stromgarde warfront, and Turelion thinks that it might be a good idea to keep on pushing, depending on what target he has in mind. That could work against the tenuous peace set up between the Alliance and the Hordes, which might relate to
the crown of light will bring only darkness.
At Turelion's side, there's also Alleria Windrunner, infused with the Void. She has control over it, for now anyways, but the Whispers, they're always there. In fact, after the defeat of N'Zoth, new voices have joined the chorus. In Shadows Rising, these two are sent on the hunt for Sylvanas. They're told to do whatever it takes to get to her. This includes chaining someone up with the Holy Light, while Alleria penetrates the mind with the Void, which causes excruciating pain and makes Jaina wonder what the heck they're up to. Alternatively, it could once again be about Anduin turning to the dark side, or Kalia Menethil, sister to Arthas, who died in the novel Before the Storm and then brought back in the light. Some are wondering if she is going to be the one that claims Sylvanas' vacant throne, which would lead to darkness. But for the moment, it's Lillian Voss that's appointed to lead the Forsaken. What is interesting to note is the time period in which Kalia died. Because the Machine of Death, it got broken somewhere in the Legion time periods. All the souls have been going to the Maw at least somewhere since Legion, perhaps even the end of that expansion. Kalia, she died in Before the Storm, which is a novel that bridges the gap between Legion and Battle for Azeroth. So that means it took place after the expansion Legion, which made me wonder why she wasn't instantly taken into the Maw. I took this question to Twitter as well, and some really cool suggestions came forward. Some suggest that the jailer was still building up his power, so grabbing Kalia, it wouldn't have been instantly. Some suggest that it's the light that kept her in limbo, away from the clutches of the jailer, and then some refer to this whisper dropped by N'Zoth in the Crucible of Storms.
The light has struck a bargain with the enemy of all.
Could it be that the light has struck a bargain for Kalia's soul? Was her death at the hand of Sylvanas a calculated move? And if so, what did the enemy of all get in return? Now there are more whispers that N'Zoth gave us during that raid that could also apply to the Shadowlands. Whispers like,
I alone can save you from what is to come. He grows hungrier, older. Alas, your eyes are closed. When the arrow finds its mark, the last fetter will fall away. The fall of night reveals her true face. She will bring only ruin. The veil wanes. His crown will open the way.
And just one more from N'Zoth, which lines up with what Il'gynoth has to share.
6 seats at the high table. 6 mouths that hunger. One will consume all others. 5 lanterns now darkened. The flame they seek will light the Master's way. The cunning ones kneel before 6 masters, but serve only one. The vassal of life disguises treachery. Beware the eyes of green.
A little while ago, I did a much more detailed video on the cosmic war that's apparently taking place in Warcraft. A shorter version, there will be the possibility of Sire Denethrius sending out his forces from the realm of death to infiltrate and manipulate the other realms. 6 masters, but in truth, they serve only one. Dreadlords in the domain of disorder, Lothraxion for the light area, agents in shadow that in turn converted Sargeras from order to disorder, and then the one that's in the life domain. All of these cosmic forces, they're always trying to overtake each other like an eternal tug of war, but balance is important, it must be maintained. The flames they seek, it could be tipping the scales in their favor. For example, the Void Lords sending out their old gods, trying to corrupt a slumbering Titan spirit, or the Burning Legion having their war with the Army of the Light, Sargeras trying to claim Azeroth. Those actions they did to pursue their goals, eventually overtake the others, while a side effect is that they unknowingly helped out the Jailer with gathering more souls, gathering more power, helping him break out of the maw. So while they got weaker, the Jailer got stronger. Then the one about the vessel of life disguising treachery, beware the eyes of green. AP Loman commented about this one in my Cosmo video. The Whisper says a vassal of life, not vessel. A vassal is a feudal title for a landholder who serves a lord, so basically it means a high-ranking servant of life, in this phrase. Ericture Pencalis, I hope pronounced that right, adds to that not only that, but eyes of green, while everyone seems to focus it on eye color, it can also mean envy. So the phrase could be referring to a high-ranking servant of life with envy over someone or something. With that in mind, I'm gonna stick with the idea that this is something that's going to come into play later. From the Winter Queen, we learn that she has a sister.
Do you have a sister, mortal? You are certainly as vexing as mine.
And from the book, they observe a connection between Ardenweald and the domain of life. One connection that is clear, there will be the connection between Ardenweald and the Emerald Dream. Spirits from all over the universe, they end up in the Shadowlands, they end up in Ardenweald. If the Shadowlands covers all of that, could the same be said for the Emerald Dream? Could perhaps the Emerald Dream actually be the domain of life, and then that vexing feeling towards her sister? That might be envy for one another, but time is going to tell. I've also heard the suggestion of potentially Ysera or maybe Freya. This is all guesswork at this point. I'm hoping for many more details and the story on the plane of life. And then, for the final 2 whispers.
The blind queen wields a scepter of bone. From the deep, she calls forth doom. Before the last shadow falls, the Father of Sleep shall savor his feast.
These 2 are a bit harder to pinpoint. Blind queens, I mean there's a Helya, there's a Winter Queen, there's a Talanji, plenty of queens, but the line about Scepter of Bone, it reminds me of the time when Varimafras mocked us about Sylvanas in Antares.
She found me at last. Sent her underlings to finish the job. When she seized your throne of hides and bones, was your allegiance forced? No, I'd wager you surrendered it willingly, or were convinced you did. It matters not. You are blind to the darkness in your midst.
Sylvanas potentially thinking that allying with the Jailer, setting him free, that works well for her overarching plans, whatever they might be, while still blind for the real dangers and schemes that the Jailer is cooking. 3 lies he will offer you. Perhaps it's her. And then the Father of Sleep. That is a title used for Muzala, someone that we're going to spend plenty of time with in the Shadowlands. Throughout Azeroth, there are small hints to be found about this Loa. Well, he played a much more prominent role in the Traveler series. He is an ally of the Jailer, the one who elevated Bonsumdi from Troll Priest to the Bonsumdi as we know him as today, and we're going to confront him in the dungeon called The Other Side. Not vanquished though. He is placed in chains, while Bonsumdi is now the boss, so he could play a part later on down the line. Before the last shadow falls, the Father of Sleep shall savor his feasts. Fun detail in the Traveler series, Muzala confronts our hero, and he says, "Not yet, son of Horn, not yet. This is not the day, that day comes. it comes. But Muzala will not engage you here or now. Our battle is yet to come. Yet to come. But it will come, child. It will come. And if you lose that battle, Muzala feasts on all of Azeroth. All of Azeroth. All of Azeroth. All of Azeroth. So he quite likes feasting on things. But how that's going to play out, and how we're hopefully going to stop him from doing this, time is going to tell. That is my take on the Whispers of Il'gynoth so far, as so many of you requested revisits. This, again, is just one way of looking at them though. So by all means, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Any awesome connections that I totally missed out on, let me know. And with that, we're going to wrap up the video. Subscribe if you like my videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one. And until next time, see ya! Hello everyone! During the time of Legion, we came across a rather interesting Dreadlord, High Commander Lothraxion, infused with the Holy Lights. That's the first time that we saw him, but the Naru has been around for much longer than that. For thousands of years, he, according to his own words, was enslaved to the Burning Legion and fought for their cause. But in the light, redemption is possible. Even for those that have committed genocide over and over and over again. Embraced by Zera, the Mother of Light, one of the first Naru to be forged during the Great Ordering of the Cosmos, and the leader of the Army of the Light, this Dreadlord was converted from Fel into Holy.
Glory to the light!
For thousands of years more, he now fought against the Burning Legion and the Burning Crusade of destroying the universe so the Void couldn't consume it. Now a big contrast between the forces of the Void and the Light is that the Void can see 1,000 different truths, whereas the Light sees only one. Zera foresaw 2 bright lights that would be critical for their mission to succeed. And so, Lothraxion was sent out to make contact with Alleria and Tauren right after they'd shut down the Dark Portal and Draenor transformed into Outland as we know it as today. He told them about the war across the stars, the great evil that lurks within the twisting nether, and for the sake of all life, they decided to join his army. He even managed to teach Tauren, a paladin already at the time, how to truly dive into the powers of the light, as our Lothraxion had a few millennia more experience than him. The human would eventually go through a presumed to be similar ritual as Lothraxion had with the Naru Zera. But the path of the light, it would not be the course for his beloved Alleria Windrunner. Instead, she embraced the shadow, despite Lothraxion advising her to stay away from it and its maddening whispers. Zera would not look kindly upon those that stray from the light, yet at the same time, he does inform her about the Locus-Walker. This is a powerful master of the Void, while, as far as the Naru knew, completely free of its grasp. The Burning Legion had lost countless lives trying to capture him. Lothraxion was nearly gone as well, was it not for the Locus-Walker making sure to slay him outside of the twisting nether, meaning that the Dreadlord would simply respawn instead of embracing his permadeath. The Locus-Walker had seen that there was a unique destiny for the Naru, and when ultimately Alleria met up with him, was trained in the ways of the Void, she too was told to have a unique destiny waiting for her. Those Void powers would go on to save the life of her beloved Tauren and close friend Lothraxion. But as expected, Zera was pretty pissed at the darkness that surrounded her. Lothraxion knelt before the whirling power of the Mother of Light. Hear my words. Lady Alleria Windrunner came back to save us, knowing that she would not be accepted here. Courage, honor, selflessness. These virtues still reside in her heart. Virtues count for nothing if you stray from the path the light has chosen for you. And yet, despite her anger, Zera hesitated, deciding to imprison Alleria until she decides to accept the path of righteousness once again. Meanwhile, back on Azeroth, they're dealing with the biggest invasion of the Burning Legion that they've ever had. Lothraxion is sent out to aid them, but somehow gets captured along the way by his fellow Dreadlord Balnazar. He and the Legion are working very hard on setting up portals to their demon world of Nishkara. Plans that don't go unnoticed. Both the Paladin Order Hall as well as the Priest Order Hall, they end up sending their forces to try and stop them, which leads to a little visit to Nishkara and running into this mysterious stranger.
Who are you, stranger? You are not of the Legion.
We fight for the same side, warriors of light. Thank you for freeing me. The Legion army will soon attack Netherlight Temple. This sanctuary must be protected at all costs. I will bring allies to defend the temple, but they are far away. I need your help to fight the enemy until we can arrive.
It's hard to decide whether or not we should trust his words, but the choice is made. Netherlight Temple is not going to be given freely to the Legion. Priests and Paladins stand shoulder to shoulder in the defense of Velen the Prophets, praying to the light that Lothraxion is going to arrive in time.
Hold your ground! They won't take us down without a fight!
There are too many! It is no use. The Prophet's vision has come to pass.
Where is your light now, heroes? Allies, do not despair. It is I, Lothraxion, High Commander of the Grand Army of the Light. On order of High Exarch Turalion, we came as fast as we could. I am sending reinforcements down to join you. Heroes, rally beneath the light. Balnazar, prepare to meet your end. No, I will never be defeated!
We did it. The Dreadlord is dead.
Thank you, Paladins of the Silver Hand. A great enemy is defeated this day. We have shown the Legion that Azeroth will not fall quietly. Prophet Velen, Warriors of Light, a well-earned victory. I expected nothing less from the heroes of Azeroth. High Lord, let us return to your Order Hall. We have much to discuss.
I am sure you have many questions, High Lords. It was fate that our paths crossed that day on Nishkara. I serve High Exarch Turalion and Lady Alleria Windrunner. When the Legion turned its armies toward Azeroth, I was sent here to help protect it. How I got to Nishkara, that's a tale for another time, but had it not been for you, I would still be Balnazar's prisoner. Now I can fulfill my original mission. Let me fight for you. Together, we will drive back the Burning Legion.
The light is everywhere. I welcome it, whether in glory or death.
He did just that, joining us all the way to Argus, where he reunited with the Army of the Light and fought on against the Burning Legion. Zera's visions, they proved not to be truth as she believed them to be. The one path this creature of the light was able to see, it would not be the destiny that ultimately played out.
The light is your destiny.
My destiny is my own!
All the same, Sargeras and the Legion were defeated, and we returned home. Well, Lothraxion, he just kind of fell off the radar. He says that the war may be over, but many battles lie ahead. Just because the Legion is defeated, it doesn't mean every demon in existence has surrendered. Not yet, at least. So seemingly, that's what he's been up to, continuing the fight against the chaotic beings of Fel that could be found far and wide within the great dark beyond. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time. But this is not the only reason why I wanted to talk about Lothraxion. For the next part, we are gonna dive into a bit of the spoilers for patch 9.1. So say that you want to be completely surprised about what's to come next. Please turn off the video right now.
You have my attention.
Back within the Shadowlands beta, we found a mighty interesting book. Enemy Infiltration Preface, which back then I dedicated a video on, talking about the cosmic war of Warcraft that's been playing out behind the scenes. The book is a report to their master, speaking about how they anticipate that certain of their targets will be more challenging to topple than others, but each of them is prone to manipulation in different ways, and their agents have already woven themselves into their very fabric. This is, after all, the solemn duty for which their master had sired them. In essence, it pitches the idea that Dreadlords, the Nafrazim, the unseen guests, they do not originate from the Twisting Nether. Rather, they originate from the Shadowlands and have then infiltrated the Twisting Nether, the domain of disorder. Consuming Fel, it wasn't a pleasant process, but it was a necessary one. Not just disorder either, all of the domains have been infiltrated. The domain of order, with the Titans, which apparently is the easiest to manipulate, show them a force that opposes their drive for order, and they will be consumed by their urge to eradicate it. Their pantheon, so seemingly united in purpose, is vulnerable to fracturing. Sargeras being informed by the Dreadlords about the Void Lords and their plans, which led to him breaking away from his brothers and sisters and forming the Burning Legion, the domain of Shadow and the Void Lords, so occupied with their vows and truths that they ignore the lies we sow in their very midst. We can leverage their vast reach to position them as a foil against our other rivals. We must remain wary though, since they're observant of multiple outcomes. It is conceivable they could anticipate our coming. I still find it a really cool idea to have Ny'alotha be the original Dreadlord that infiltrated the domain of Shadow. They were caught, they were punished, and imprisoned within the Blade, the domain of life, their most insidious of opponents. Still, they have high confidence that a vulnerability has been identified, and their operative has already gained the trust of her targets. And then the domain of light. Similar to the Titans, the Naru and their keepers are singular in purpose. Their adherence to a linear path is an obvious shortcoming. They savor nothing more than being proved right. So if they believe they've converted one of us to their precious light, they will trust that agent implicitly. The recently added content for the 9.1 PTR, it confirms what we thought was going on back then. Dreadlords originally sired by Sire Denephrius, and then sent out to infiltrate the other cosmic domains. We also got some awesome new models, which I imagine is what Dreadlords without Fel infusion look like. We even got female Dreadlords now, which is great considering their agent in the domain of life. But then, what about Lothraxion? Has he genuinely been turned by the light, or has he been playing for Team Death all along?
Death to the Legion!
Let's take a step back and actually observe what he's responsible for, at least the parts of the story that we know. He has helped fight the Legion many different times. He has helped us in Argus, he has helped us defeat Sargeras, even kill Balnazar, but in the grand scheme of things, that might have just been to convince the Light that he's truly an ally. The defeat of the Burning Legion, Sargeras losing a few demons here and there, it doesn't really matter when you're actually working for the schemes of the domain of death. Zera, a prime Naru, ended up in itty-bitty little pieces because of Illidan's storm rage. She had foreseen a destiny for him, one that she was certain would bring about the defeat of the Legion and salvation for all. He was there, thanks to the efforts of many, including Lothraxion. And yet, it was Illidan himself that refused that destiny. Zera worked really hard on getting him there, out of something that she had seen, that she was certain about. Where the shadows see 1,000 possible truths, the light they see only one. But the thing that she had seen was proven to be wrong.
Did you not see this fate, prophet? Fate?
Illidan didn't need to become this child of light for us to defeat Sargeras, so what is up with his vision? Was she simply wrong, or did someone, Lothraxion perhaps, manipulate her? It's not impossible for the Naru or the light to be blinded from the truth. Just look back at the quests that were given. We ventured into Illidan's past, and we saw what his life was like, but it wasn't the accurate version. There were some minor changes here and there, just to make him look a little bit better. I kinda assumed that this was just a story presented to us from Illidan's point of view, or maybe that the Naru was making the Demon Hunter look better than he actually was. But what if she just believed this to be the actual Illidan? Removing such a prime Naru like Zera from the playing field, while also defeating the Legion and have the domain of order occupied with Sargeras. It's quite a masterful play, if all of that was indeed orchestrated by Lothraxion. And then those two that he recruited into the army of the light, Alleria and Tauren. They returned home, but they were different than they once were, especially Alleria. She's become infused with the Void, a path that Lothraxion kinda helped her on. Remember how he was the one that informed her about the existence of the Locus-Walker? Now she constantly hears the maddening whispers. Great power that comes with a terrible price, and a special destiny that awaits. Not just Alleria, but more elves have now embraced the path of the Void, hanging out at Telogris Rifts. That's a lot of whispering going on. What part could they and the Locus-Walker play in the future? For Tauren, he still wields the light, but it doesn't mean that he's keeping his hands clean. In the novel Shadows Rising, we can see just how far these two are willing and capable to go. On the quest of hunting down Sylvanas, they're in need of information, but the Horde party that they found is not willing to give it. No matter though, they have their own ways of extracting information. The Void invaded the Orc's mind easily, readily, commanded by Alleria's experienced hands, guided by her knowledge of its capabilities. The Old Ones could use the smallest thoughts to drive a person mad, to wrench any information they wanted from an unwilling, tormented subject. Gauzes, the Orc, clutched her sides of her head, gasping, her eyes snapping open, suddenly glowing with eerie light. "Hold her," Alleria whispered. Turellian did as he asked, reaching out with one gloved hand. Golden cuffs, glittering with the light, wrapped tightly around the Orc's wrists and ankles, chains bursting forth and securing her to the earth. The world fell away, leaving Alleria within the Orc's mind. She sifted through memories and thoughts like fingers combing through sands. Each second that passed plunging the woman into greater agony. She shrieked, tears pouring down her face, her back bending at strange angles as she fought the pain tunneling through her mind. Eventually, one of the others gave the information they were looking for, if only that they would stop this torment. Light and Void, a power couple capable of doing great and terrible things. Now last we heard, and that's been a while since we've been partying in the Shadowlands, Turellian sits on the throne of Stormwind. In King Anduin's absence, he's been entrusted with the protection of the Alliance citizens. The Four War took a terrible toll on the Alliance. Their military might has been depleted. Stormwind's nobles are keen to see their defenses restored. Reclaiming Stromgard was a good first step. Perhaps there are other holdings of the old Alliance that could be secured. Imagine for a moment that the jailer is successful, able to crawl his way not only out of the maw, but also that rift in the sky, moving his forces from the realm of death into the physical world, right onto Azeroth. Right now, as far as we're aware, peace stands between the Alliance and the Horde. The old gods learned pretty quickly that a united Azeroth was near impossible to defeat. The same lesson was also learned by the Burning Legion. Lothraxion and the other Dreadlords, they have managed to observe, manipulate and control for quite a while now. They're aware that a unified Azeroth is a great threat, but a few whispers, some words of advice from his old friend Lothraxion, they might push Turellian into taking hostile action and shatter what's already fragile, weakening our defenses and helping the jailer's plans even further. What I do really find interesting and a little bit hard to figure out is the timeline that we're looking at. Prince Renethal explains a bit of it, about how countless ages ago, just after the first Venthyr were sired, the Nefrius also made the Nathrezim. Forged to be the ultimate infiltrators, they bore the influence of death into the realms of our rivals, as well as the worlds of the living. So, what we read from the Infiltration book. Despite their subtlety, one of these incursions was discovered. In response, the full wrath of the light fell upon Revendreth, setting ablaze the ward once held by the Nathrezim. The scourged land in Revendreth, the so-called Ember Wards, the reason why the light retaliated, there was the uncovered Nathrezim infiltration. Knowing that bit, I do wonder why Lothraxion is still around. You'd imagine that if he was the one that they uncovered, that they would kick him out. Unless they're right about the light and its arrogance, truly believing that they've converted this Dreadlord to their side, and then still attack Revendreth for its actions. Who knows, maybe the light is right, and maybe Lothraxion is truly on their side. It wouldn't be the first time that the arrogance of the Nathrezim blows up in their face. The armies of Maldraxxus did not rise up to defend us. I can already imagine the Primus telling the Nefrius to clean up his own mess. So the Stone Rites carved the Stone Legion to strike back against the light. Once the Naru were routed, the Stone Rites turned their anger upon the Nathrezim, blaming them for the loss of so many of her children. The conflict was ended by the Nefrius, who said that he would exile them to a world beyond the Shadowlands. And yet, the Nathrezim claim that they were never exiled to begin with, so the Nefrius, I guess he was just hiding his plans better. But when exactly did all of this happen? Where was Denethrius' allegiance? We know that he was a member of the Pantheon of Death when they imprisoned their brother Zovaal, but it could very well be that he was never actually on board with his plan, merely went along with it since he had no chance to oppose the others. So then together with Zovaal, they do their thing. They infiltrate the other domains, they plan and work on setting Zovaal free, have death wash over all and disturb the balance. Is it truly going to be simple as that, or has there always been more at play? And how will the sire feel about his allegiance with the jailer, now that the jailer had decided to just abandon him to his fate? Curious little threats that are being built up, and I really hope that they're going to deliver. For now, you're up to speed on the story of the Holy Nathrazim, the story of Lothraxion, and the developments with the Nathrazim in the Shadowlands. I can't wait to see more of it, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. By all means, let me know what you think is going on in the comments down below. Say that you want more details on all the things that I talked about today. Read it in your own time, then check out the Relayed Wild article in the description down below. And with that, until next time, see ya! Hello everyone! Blizzard has released a new short story called The Doom of Karesh, written by Adam Christopher, illustrated by Cynthia Shepard, and narrated by Ray Porter, aka the Locus-Walker. Per usual, I'll link it in the description down below to check out their video or read the PDF for yourself, whatever you might prefer. Now the story takes place at the beginning of the War Within, the pre-event where Xal'atath is hitting all the right buttons with Alleria, and Locus-Walker shares his fears, his warnings that
the radiant visions you spoke of are the very same my people had, before our world was consumed by the Void Lord Dimensius.
What? You don't think... Could Xal'atath be seeking that same fate for Azeroth?
I fear that is precisely what she intends.
We leave them behind, but Locus-Walker and Alleria would spend some time together, talking about his past, while hunting down a Void Revenant within the Logos Rifts. A past whose details are not that fleshed out, because what does Locus-Walker mean? Dimensius the All-Devouring devoured his world? His world has or had a world soul like ours? The Radiant Song, the soul calling out, is familiar to him. How come? What went down on Karesh? What could we learn for the sake of Azeroth? And that is what this story is all about, telling us more on what happened with Karesh beyond the story that we know, which so far says: the mysterious Ethereals, a race of gifted scientists and magi who originally dwelled on the world of Karesh. In pursuit of knowledge and arcane technologies, they had doomed themselves and their home. The Kareshi had torn open a rift into the void and drawn the wrath of a being known as Dimensius the All-Devouring. Dimensius had bathed the world in volatile energies that slowly tore it apart, and the Kareshi had desperately tried to shield themselves from harm. Their efforts had only partially worked. Their magic had blocked Dimensius' shadowy power, but raw, arcane energy had shattered their physical bodies. All that remained were their souls, bristling with magic. From that day forward, these incorporeal creatures called themselves Ethereals. An on-the-ground experience offers quite a different view, and we learn a lot of details about life for the Kareshi before they became beings of energy. The planet of Karesh was a harsh place, a world with two suns in the sky, called Meter and Tzemeter, made of sand and stone and dust. But there was something else, a certain magic, and perhaps aided by that magic, life found a foothold, as it often does. Lessons of survival became their means of innovation, until some millennia later, their society grew into a great web of city-states. Cities like Gestalt and Dervashna. They mention the city of Manusa, the one Locus-Walker called his home, and Manusa's leader was Kaivessa, a name we've also heard before, one following orders of a mysterious boss, pretending to be an ally of Queen Ansarek, but she ran into us before finishing her mission, so who knows where her allegiance lies these days. Back then, she was one of Locus-Walker's closest companions, just like Nari, who, in our time, we would meet as the Nari, the broker hanging out in the mall.
Find anything of interest, Walker?
For those who hadn't heard yet, Lore Walker with Joe has confirmed that the Ethereals and Brokers share an origin point. They both hail from Karesh and then split off into the Ethereals and the Brokers. There's also the city of Tazavesh, the big market dungeon that we partied through in the Shadowlands with its leader Bilal. The Spelldancers, nomads that traveled around, spreading their traditional dance with Locus-Walker's love Chryson amongst their numbers. Then there's mention of Etries and Architects, as well as the Testing, but the major faction, the powerhouse of their society, that would be the Council of Oracles, where a Kaivessa might lead Manusa. They held authority in all things. Led by Salhadar, at the time their High Priest of the Untamed, his closest confidant being the Soul Scribe. So life on Karesh was harsh, but they learned, carved out a life for themselves, loved intently. Over time, they evolved, deeper into their research, into their science, and yet there are remnants of ages gone by. Ancient magics and traditions with great mysteries and powers to unlock, like the so-called Rishi ribbons. Held by most of Karesh's leaders, it was symbolic of their ties to the ancient ways, while holding some mysterious power. Imbued with arcane power, they aid in the transmutation of energy. Locus-Walker's research and discoveries of the hidden potential within these ribbons, it has had a standing rise amongst the council. But his standing was a bit iffy. As the technomancer that he was, Locus-Walker had dedicated his life to studying energy harvest and transference to the benefit of Karesh. And when we say dedicate his life, that is exactly what it means, as the Kareshi, they work with something called oaths. Not just promises you make, but full on, like breaking an oath, it would mean casting aside your life to die alone amongst the sands. This was his purpose. And yet the oath, it was broad enough to have him get into contact with the powers of the void. History tells us that the Kareshi were the ones who tore open the rifts and brought in the Wrath of Dementius. This story does not outright mention such a moment. Yet they do mention Locus-Walker's solo research into the void. For years they allowed him to dive deep. He is the one hearing the whispers and able to push them to the side. Even hears Xal'atath's voice, the harbinger of the void, ringing through his mind, warning him of the coming of Dementius. So, was it the Locus-Walker and his research that is actually responsible for weakening the barrier and drawing in the hunger of Dementius? He was really quick to point his finger to Xal'atath, connecting the Radiant Song to the Harbinger, bringing in Dementius, to then feast on Azeroth like he had done on Karesh. But is that what happened back then? It's left open for interpretation, with a lot of implications if proven true. All the same, his research into the void, being able to transform the abstract into real, is what also allowed him to figure out why some other people are hearing the voice ringing out, the so-called Radiant Song, because they didn't have a King of Diamonds to communicate for them. Imagine just randomly starting to hear a voice, barely a whisper on the wind, a song in your heart, not knowing what it's all about. It's not a direct line spoiling you for what is to come, so you do not trust it. Some called it a conspiracy. Some full-on leaned into it. He dedicated his research to figuring out what was going on, and he realized it was actually the soul of their world calling out to them. Sharing his findings, had the leadership publicly brand him as someone going beyond his oaths, that he should stop spreading these lies, but in truth, they believed him. From the Salhadar to Nari, Kaivessa to Bilal, they believed his research and actually wanted their Void Sorcerer to go deeper. The sharpest minds and the most trusted of their kind had come together as the Revel, and they wanted him to join them. Interesting to note is that the Soul Scribe was not amongst their numbers. They allow him to retake his oaths, now once sworn to that which Karesh calls you. He was named Locus-Walker by Salhadar, just in time for the sky to darken. Violet, the color of the void itself, as the all-devouring had come. When history says that Dementius slowly tore their world apart, it wasn't kidding. Weeks and months, the Kareshi's world was bathed in darkness. A perpetual midnight, one might say. Its fear seasoning the world. A tasty snack for when Dementius was ready to crack open the world and devour the soul within. Does make you wonder about the old gods and the corruption of a slumbering world soul, as they tried to do on Azeroth, but who is to say that all the Void is aligned to the same plan? Perhaps Dimensius' focus was simply to devour, he does have the name for it. But just imagine having to live with that fear constantly hovering over your head, with voices on the wind, unrest churning amongst those who had seen the radiant visions and knew that action should have been taken long ago. To quell the unrest, their oracles put out a plan to banish the long and evil night, a plan that was rooted not in technomancy, but in their ancient ways, which brought comfort. Enough so for the people to just return to their daily lives while doom hovered above them. Either the Kareshi were stronger than I had hoped, or their memories were shorter than I expected. Perhaps it was a little bit of both, the Locus-Walker thought. With the population finding relief in their old traditions, Locus-Walker continued his studies, all the while hearing the voices. There's Karesh, there's the Void, and of course there's Ny'alotha. Although they do not outright name her, he probably didn't even know it was her until much later, until it was far too late, warning him of the coming of Dimensius, which does put her relation with the Devourer into question. In time, the Locus-Walker does come up with a plan to save all of them. While some amongst the revel no longer trusted him, Nari and Kaivessa still held strong, and Zalhadar made the final ruling. The revel is led by the Locus-Walker. As he commands, so we obey. Through the vices of his design, they can use the Rishi ribbons to power reactors, which in turn would turn on arcane shields to protect them. Their sacred artifacts can transmute any kind of energy into pure arcane power. This power can be harnessed and funneled through the cores of great reactors, which did make me wonder if this is where Ny'alotha got the idea from for the Dark Heart, as the Dark Heart is also able to convert any energy but into the Void. The shields go up just in time to hold off the inevitable. For the first time amidst the backdrop of the devouring war, it seemed Karesh could win, but they were saved from one doom, yet condemned to another fate entirely.
It is all about perspective.
Years followed. Dimensius loomed above, but their protections held. The Kareshi would survive underneath their bubbles. But that on the outside, like their twin sons, they had already been consumed by the Devourer. Karesh did not suffer this siege in silence. We had the Untamed, the Exchange, the Testing, and the Architect united and battled against the unknowable Void with spell and incantation, machine and ingenious device. The barriers held, but for how long? Dimensius did not concern himself with weeks or years. This was a being that dealt in eternities. And as we know from history, in this time, the Ethereals transformed. But looking back on it in the history books, it makes it seem small. Almost instant and a mercy. Quite the opposite though. Their own creations that were keeping them safe from the threat above. It was also flaying them alive. A process they called wasting. As the barriers were built, those who worked upon them began to wither and weaken. Their skin peeling away, scorched to ash like in a great fire. Perhaps his calculations and work should have been questioned. If they saw what I saw, knew what I knew, suspect what I hid from them, I would have found a solution, he wondered to himself. The wasting spread across their people. They began a practice of wrapping their disintegrating forms in layered bindings. In time, the barriers were protecting city-states, populated by faceless, featureless beings. Imagine slowly transforming like that. The panic feeding into the void, it feeding into the chaos. Kareshi turned on Kareshi. The superstitions that took hold of their people. Technomancers and mages turned from data to crumbling tomes lifted from ancient crypts, in spells and magics from other times and places. Not even the oracles could govern and control their people, and it was only their oaths, so sacred, that kept complete anarchy at bay. His calculations proved even more wrong. The Rishi ribbons were perfect in their ability to transmute any and all energies, including those of the void. While they powered the barriers, channeling energy between the network of arcane reactors that now covered Karesh, their very nature meant that the process was of its own volition, happening in reverse as well. Arcane energy kept increasing over so many years, and this was the true cause of the wasting. The barriers would survive, but those trapped beneath them would not. Even if Dimensius were one day able to penetrate our defenses, the world he consumed would be a dead one.
You must find a way to stop her.
The Rishi ribbons were causing massive damage, but what choice did they have? And they had one more secret to unlock. They had also started to transform the Kareshi, their beings, into dead of energy, something he had noticed happening to his beloved Chrisen, and that would be their way out of this mess. As beings of energy, they could go anywhere. They would not need this world anymore. Xal'atath knew this as well. Her encouraging voice in his mind. The time of the Kareshi's ascendance would soon be upon them. But would the others still listen to him? Nari, Kaivessa, and Chryson advocating for his desperate play. Others called it blasphemy. Did not trust the Void Sorcerer. And then Salhadar tells them that he will need some time to think before they make a decision. Locus-Walker knows that he got no time to waste though. He knows each moment is precious, already gathering as many ribbons as he can. On the third day, Nari gets a report from her network that there were no ribbons left to pick up. Salhadar had already gathered them, and Locus-Walker for the briefest moment is hopeful that this means that they have decided to move forward with his plan. But Nari urges to be cautious. There have been many rumors about their high priest, who is set to make an announcement. As they always had, Kaivessa, Nari, and Chryson, they stand at the Locus-Walker's side, while High Priest Salhadar now has the Soul Scribe next to him. Well, High Priest no longer. Salhadar embraces the title a new oath of High King, the title we know him best with, going back to when we fought him with the Burning Crusade. The High King reveals to the public the true reason for their wastening. Not an accident, but done on purpose, by those who schemed and plotted, who sought the doom of the Kareshi, even as we fought for our very survival. Arch-traitor Locus-Walker and his companions were blamed. Just as above them, the barrier cracks open, and the void roils back in with force. The true traitors, of course, being Salhadar and the Soul Scribe, whispering amongst each other as hell around them broke loose. Locus-Walker and crew are able to fight their way through the crowd, as all around them, the city falls to riots and darkness, and what hope I once had vanished, along with the barriers that protected us. And that's where the story ends as well. At least the details on what went down on Karesh. He remarks that together with Nari, he was able to eventually succeed in their task. The Rishi ribbon saved them, transmuting their people. They survived, while Dimensius closed in, and Karesh was consumed. Now the next patch is gonna take us to Karesh, where we'll learn more on what happened in the Devouring War. So I'll keep what we know on the PTR to myself to keep it a bit spoiler free. While learning about Karesh is really interesting, to the Locus-Walker, the moral of the story, the reason for telling Alleria, it was to make her detach herself from the things that unbalanced her. They've had these discussions before about her loved ones and how could she possibly imagine to walk the darkness with such a bright light next to her. Yet now we find out that the Locus-Walker also had a great love. One that was his rock in the storm of trying to figure out what was going on, what they could do in order to survive this. Even after years of torment, she did not blame him for their predicaments. She is afraid, absolutely, but at least he'd given him the chance to die as Kareshi, not as some terrible corruption of the void. That, my love, is perpetual torment. A torment she somehow, someway, was still forced to endure, as it turns out that the Void Revenant they've been tracking is actually what is left of Chryson. The romantic in me wants to believe that it's their connection that has drawn this Revenant back to him, but the possibility of this actually being Xal'atath messing with him, sending this dark gift to get to him, it's also one to consider. The heart belonged to him. He had told Windrunner as they had set out, and it would be, for all eternity. For Alleria, these are not distractions though, or things that got her off balance, quite the opposite. They are the things that give her strength, which we'd seen on full display when she had to come face to face with the Harbinger. The Void makes an easy mark of those that it's capable of isolating, which is what allowed Alleria to rise up against Xal'atath, and what opened the door for the Locus-Walker to be her biggest victim. For there is a lot of room for detail left to give. Imagine if in the darkness and the shadows, the Locus-Walker was listening to Xal'atath. He did his research, did his calculations, and while desperately wanted to save his people, inadvertently opened the door for the ultimate fate. The Harbinger is really good at whispering from the shadows, creating these opportunities in which her victims, they have no other choice but to sign up with her. In most cases, believing that she's on their side, offering salvation, offering something so good, but so many before them have fallen. Still leaves the question, what is it that Ny'alotha wants? Her promos make mention of claiming our world's soul, but why exactly? Simply to have power enough to rise up against any that dare to stand against her? Is it simply the hunger of the void? Or does she know more than we do? Does she have an alternative motive? And speaking of the world's soul, what happened to the world soul of Karesh during their time of the siege? Did its radiant song become more desperate? Did it slumber? Did it try to take a role in the war, similar to how Azeroth tried to help us? And what about that history that came before? The scrolls and superstitions of their people? What beings have visited Karesh and pushed their destiny? Where did Ny'alotha and Dementius come from? So many things still left to answer, but it was definitely brilliant learning more about Karesh, the Ethereals, the Brokers, Dementius, and the Devouring War, while leaving plenty still to be explained of those final days. A step between this story and what we'll find on Karesh, which I'm hoping we're gonna get like an animated video for. Like imagine seeing bits of the Devouring War, like the ending of it. Imagine in a cutscene form, in an animation form, but you never know, right? For now though, this is what we got. Hope you're up to speed. Hope you enjoyed per usual. If you did, make sure to subscribe, leave a like. You know how YouTube works. Have a wonderful weekend. And until next time. See ya.
Hello everyone! The Burning Legion has invaded Azeroth once again, and priests, they're able to pick up 3 different artifacts to empower them in this war. For the Holy Priest, it's going to be Tur, Beacon of the Naru. This holy weapon was believed to be lost when brave Draenei sacrificed their lives to buy their people another day, but vindicated Boros, he has requested our help retrieving a recovered soldier who has escaped from the Legion. Normally, this kind of job would fall to an acolyte to handle, but the soldier has mentioned the fabled weapon in his delirium. Perhaps, if we save his life, he could tell us more, so in Dalaran we meet up with Boros and we call upon the light to save this poor soul.
Remain. He's just inside. Please, do whatever you can to save him.
Tore, Allora, escape!
My head. Where am I? I need fresh air. Bottom.
Delicious. Now after clearing his stomach, Barum explains that he must have been dreaming about Allora, his cellmate, who said that she had seen the crystal. Together, they were able to escape from the accursed world that the demons had taken them after the Broken Shore. One of the Legion's portals took them back to Azeroth, but that's about as far as the luck got them. They were quickly spotted, and while Barum was wounded as he made a run for the protection of the water, Allora was taken by the greatest enemy of any scary movie. She simply tripped, and Barum had to watch as they dragged her back. Seeing how she apparently knows about this weapon, time for a little rescue mission.
I'm coming with you. You helped one of my men, so it's only fitting that I return the favor. I'll meet you at Krasus Landing. We can take my griffin down to the island. That beast is trying to take her soul! Hurry! We can still save her!
A new prisoner for the taking.
I'm alive. By the light, I live again!
May the light protect you.
With the power of the holy light, we're able to bring Allora back to the land of the living. She could feel her soul being ripped from her body by the demon. If we hadn't come along when we did, she doesn't even want to think about it. She explains that she was serving aboard the airship that crashed on the way to the Broken Shore. Next thing she knew, she was on a broken land and above her stood a Man'ari carrying a staff of darkened crystal. There's no mistaking it. That was none other than Tur. All her life she had heard stories about how Tur flowed with the healing power of the light. Somehow, the crystal has been darkened by the Man'ari. This simply won't do. We'll have to find a way to get to the planet that Allora is talking about. But as we discuss the matter, an uninvited guest shows up.
Prophet's mercy. What is that?
What are you filthy mortals doing near the Master's portal? I rip the answer from your soul.
Go deal with that demon. I'll tend to Allura.
You won't escape me this time, Bailiff. Tell me where your master is, and I may grant you a quick death. Sinu Amanore. You were fortunate I was in the area. What brings you to this forsaken place?
The Illidari Jace Darkweaver saves our butts, and he's on the hunt of an Eredar that calls itself Lady Calindris. She wields a staff of crystal that masters the description perfectly, but she is his prey. He's been chasing her minions all over the Isles, and is not about to let this opportunity pass, but since he's only after her soul and we're after the equipment, perhaps we can help each other out. The soul of the vanquished subjugator will provide plenty of power to fuel the gateway, and with it, we could travel to the planet that Allura and Barum were taken captive.
Let's get going. The portal is just ahead.
Before we venture forth into the unknown, let's first talk about the history behind this weapon and why its legend is known by so many. The Draenei have many legends about the benevolent Naru, few are as cherished as the tale of Tur. Like other Naru, Tur vowed to protect all mortal civilizations in the universe from the clutches of darkness. This noble quest eventually led the holy being to a world called Karkora. Its mortal denizens faced annihilation at the hands of a monstrous entity known as Dimensius the All-Devouring. You might remember Dimensius being mentioned before as being responsible for turning the Ethereals into what to look like today. As Dimensius shrouded Karkora in void energies, Tur expanded its own life force to spare the world from doom. The Naru shattered into fragments and sparked a colossal holy nova. The energy cascaded over Karkora, washing away the void and banishing Dimensius from the world. Tur had shattered, but even broken, its light was undiminished. Each piece blazed like a star, drawing Naru from the far corners of creation. They scooped up Tur's glittering fragments, and they sang songs of the sacrifice that had saved the world. The Naru gifted these shards to various races that they believe show potential for good. The largest piece of Tur that was passed on to the ancient Eredar of Argus. It is said that this artifact plummeted from the sky like a falling star. Night turned to day, and Tur's glorious light painted the heavens in shades of gold for a full week. The Eredar, they're a highly educated race who cherish learning, and they study Tur with great curiosity. The first among them to truly harness the artifact's power for good was the wise leader named Velen the Prophet. During Velen's time, a strange curse was spreading across Argus. The victims found their minds addled, their memories diminished. Few things terrified the Eredar as much as losing their precious knowledge. They reacted with fear and paranoia. To prevent others from contracting the affliction, many of the Eredar considered quarantining the cursed or even banishing them altogether from Argus, a similar reaction that the Draenei had when they devolved into the Broken. Yet Velen would not abandon his people. At great risk to himself, he walked amongst the cursed with Tur in hand. He called upon the artifact's power and cured all of the stricken Eredar. When Sargeras eventually came to Argus to corrupt the Eredar and recruit them for his Burning Legion, nearly all of them fell under his sway. Velen and his followers, they were the exception. With the Naru's help, they embarked on a harrowing escape from their home. The going was not easy. Demons awaited the fleeing Eredar at every corner. Despair gripped the renegades, and many even considered giving up. It was during this dark and trying time that Velen brought Tur to bear. Its brilliant energies shone before the renegades and renewed their dwindling confidence. Emboldened by the artifact, Velen's followers believed that they could do the impossible, that they could complete their daring flight from Argus. And so they did.
Not all who wander are lost. We must unite against the Legion.
From that day forward, the renegades called themselves the Draenei. It's a name that everyone in Azeroth now knows, but if not for Tur, perhaps the Draenei would never have come to be. Aboard a dimensional fortress called the Genedar, the Draenei fled across the stars. The demons pursued them relentlessly, determined to punish the renegades for escaping corruption. The long millennia that followed, they were harsh on the Draenei. They could not rest. The threat of capture haunted their dreams. To defend themselves against the Legion, many turned to Tur and other holy artifacts brought with them from Argus. The Draenei studied these relics and honored their connection to the light under the tutelage of Velen and the Naru. A student named Azkara, she showed more promise than the rest. In time, she would earn the right to carry Tur herself, and she would become one of the greatest healers the Draenei would ever know. Azkara had lost her entire family in Argus, but she found a new one aboard the Xenadar. She saw the Draenei as her brothers and sisters, and she vowed to do whatever she could to protect them. Yet she was not gifted with physical strength or a talent for forging armaments. Instead, she turned to the light. Her mastery of holy magic became so great that Velen eventually gave Tur to her. Azkara spent her every waking hour studying the artifact and unlocking its extraordinary potential. It was during this time that Azkara received a vision of the future. She foresaw her people finding a sanctuary from the Legion, a whole new way of life, a new world to call home. But strangely, she did not see herself there. The Draenei would visit many different worlds in search of a safe haven, but they rarely stayed for very long before the Burning Legion would learn of their whereabouts. Before the demons could confront them, the Draenei would gather aboard the Xenadar and disappear into the stars once again. The Legion's relentless pursuit bred depression and pessimism in many of the Draenei, but they did not suffer in silence. Azkara sought out her forlorn kin and spoke to them of their troubles. She carried Tur with her at all times, the relic casting an aura of holy magic around her that lifted the other Draenei spirits. It is true that the Legion is vast and mighty, but they do not stand in the light as we do. Azkara often said, no matter how strong our enemy is, if they walk in darkness, they will always stumble and fall. On Sargeras, the Burning Legion had been waiting for them, watching as they disembarked from the Xenadar and set foot on the world. The Draenei believed that they had found a place to settle, a place to start over again, and they were very wrong. Fel portals screamed open all around them, spewing forth Doomguards, Felhounds, and other horrors. The Legion's forces cornered them, cutting off the retreat to the Xenadar. They'd probably been done for, was it not for Azkara. She planted herself between her people and the demons. Tur held high, a storm of light erupted around her, blinding the Legion's minions and shielding them from their fell-touched blades. As they battled their way to the Xenadar, Tur grew brighter and brighter until it shone like a second sun on Sargeras. When the Burning Legion attacked the Draenei on Sargeras, Azkara finally understood that strange vision of the future that she had seen so long ago. One day, her people would locate to a new home, but she was not fated to join them. She would die on Sargeras to give them a chance to find that sanctuary. Azkara and 70 other Draenei volunteered to distract the Legion. With their blood, they would buy the rest of the renegades the time to escape the planet. The battle between the demons and these brave defenders, it will go down as one of the greatest instances of self-sacrifice in Draenei history. Hundreds of demons smashed into the 71 like a battering ram of fel-forged steel, but the defenders gave no ground. Not a single inch was given. Every time that the Draenei teetered on the brink of death, Azkara was there. She charged through the battle lines and mended the wounded with Tur's holy light. Because of Azkara, the 71 fought with the courage and strength of 1,000. Because of her and those brave defenders, the Draenei race escaped annihilation. After the Battle of Sargeras, Tur fell into the Burning Legion's hands. The demons had witnessed Azkara's heroic last stand, and they attributed her immense power to the strange artifact. Legion forces squabbled over control of the relic before Kil'jaeden the Deceiver finally decided whom it would go to. He entrusted the artifact to an Eredar priestess named Lady Calindris. She was one of the few demons who understood the Draenei's holy magics, and what was more, Calindris had an intimate knowledge of Tur itself. Long ago, on their planet of Argus, the priestess had acted as a caretaker of the Eredar's holy relics. It still took years before Calindris finally bent Tur to her will. After a series of grim rituals, she transformed the artifact into a dark reflection of itself. Where once Tur inspired hope, now it would spread fear. Where once the relic healed, now it would cause wounds to fester. Lady Calindris relished bending Tur to her will and using its corrupted power against her foes. She loathed the Draenei, and the thought of befouling their cherished artifact, it delighted her to no end. She grew so talented at wielding Tur that the Demon Lord Kil'jaeden gave her a special task. She would serve as a torturer on the Legion prison worlds. She was well suited for this role. She made an art out of inflicting suffering on her captives, and images of Tur filled their nightmares. Much like Azkara, Calindris eventually received a vision of the future. She foresaw the Legion invading the world of Azeroth and bathing it in felfire. Strangely enough, Calindris herself was not there. But Tur was. A stranger wielded the artifact in its glorious true form, and its light blinded the Legion's forces, shining over the land like a second sun. Let's make sure that that vision comes true as we step through the gateway and we get ready to confront Calindris.
Bless the light. You made it. This place is crawling with evil. Jace went to scout ahead, but when these demons attacked... Thank you, champion.
With my strength renewed, I am able to dispel this foul magic. Come, hero. Jace was heading this way. We fight at your side, Demon Hunter.
Thank you, friends. I admit, I doubted you'd survive the demon's trap, Boros. Thought it would just be me and the priest now.
My wounds were severe, but our priest arrived just in time.
They closed the gates to the upper levels. Priest, use your holy magic to destroy the anchoring crystal. That should open our way. Excellent. Now let's get out of here.
What is that noise? Ny'alotha! If you allow another jailbreak, I'll strand you on this pathetic rock and leave
Be on
you
your
to
guard.
rot!
I sense a powerful demon ahead.
If you had faith in the light, Demon Hunter, there would be nothing to fear.
A prisoner! We could use her help. Free her.
Taz Dingo! Thank you for getting me out of there.
No more escapes on my watch.
This is actually the first time that we see Boya in-game. Before, she was only part of the WoW trading card game. Her art has been used for the sideshow spell Eater card in Hearthstone. Now apparently this jungle troll, she was also taken captive by the demons and is more than willing to join our party as we take the battle to Kalindris.
Many thanks again, man, for getting me out of there.
We seek the leader of this den of horrors, an Eredar called Lady Kalindris.
Aye, she be outside directing her demons to load up more captives. I be having a score to settle with her. So if you be aiming to take her out, count me in.
Come, let's move before we encounter any more surprises.
Are you truly so stupid? You presume to challenge an Eredar sorceress of the Burning Legion? I grow tired of this. Be consumed! It's just you and me now, little priest. Your pathetic light won't save you.
We are agents of the light.
My staff is absorbing the light! Damn you, priest, and your accursed magic! My staff! It senses the light within you! What is it? No!
Oh, such power! I feel the demon's essence infusing every fiber of my being!
I fear for your soul, Demon Hunter. It's not too late. Turn to the light and be cleansed of your corruption.
Spare me your platitudes, Paladin. Your people know well the horrors that the Legion plans to unleash. The Legion must be stopped, and I will do everything in my power to make it so. Nothing is more important than their destruction.
You two can yell at each other later. It'd be time to get out of this place.
Jace will continue to be edgy and compare how much he is sacrificed with everyone that he encounters. Our journey together ends here for the moment, as we've made sure that the vision seen by Kalindris has come true. We have imbued Tur with the holy light, cleansed it from the foul darkness that had taken hold over it, and with it we'll continue our war against the Burning Legion and our adventures through the Broken Isles. However, those are the story for another day, so for now, thank you very much for watching everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time guys, see ya! Hello everyone! The Burning Legion has invaded Azeroth once again, and Priest, they're able to pick up 3 different artifacts to empower them in this war. For Shadow Priest, it's going to be one of my favorite artifacts, even though I probably don't pronounce it right, Xanathoth, Blade of the Black Empire. It's a Lance's Foul, who informs us about an ancient dagger of the old gods that just resurfaced in a bid to restore the Twilight's Hammer to power. They're performing an unholy ritual near Tyr's tomb that must be stopped, and interestingly enough, this artifact quest seems to take place after the warriors have been there, together with the spirits of Thoradin. Now these cultists, they're trying to resurrect the beast that warriors have slain, and in their possession is the Blade of the Black Empire. This is a powerful void-attuned sacrificial dagger that has been used in horrific rites to the old gods since time immemorial. It enhances its owners with powerful shadow energy, so it should be perfect for us. But before we go and meet up with Moira's double agent who's inside the cult, let's first talk about the history of the weapon, since it's quite a good one.
The blade was taken somewhere in northwestern Tirisfal. I've marked a location on your map where you can begin your search.
Ny'alotha had a dark genesis in an age long before the Horde and the Alliance, an age when the legendary old gods and the Black Empire, it engulfed the world in shadow. There are many theories concerning the blade's creation. The more outlandish claim that it's all that remains of a forgotten old god who was consumed by its kin in the early days of the Black Empire. Other theories state that Ny'alotha is the claw of Sargeras, ripped from the old god's monstrous form and bestowed upon its servants for use in ritual sacrifices. As unbelievable as these stories are, perhaps there is a truth to them. Ny'alotha pulses with the foul essence of the old gods. It is even said that the blade can grant its owner visions of the Black Empire, but all who have looked upon such horrors, they have lost themselves to madness. Another nice touch to this is that before the Chronicles, we had 5 evil gods imprisoned beneath the world. They've retconned this to 4 with Kafun, Yogg-Saron, Y'Shaarj and N'Zoth, so perhaps the earlier mentioned 5th old god, that one is actually this blade. Either way, mighty beings known as the Titanforge, they eventually defeated the Black Empire. They shackled the old gods and their minions imprisoned beneath the earth, and Harmony descended on Azeroth, but it was not to last. The blade that remained in the world passed from mortal hand to mortal hand, and leaving only death and chaos in its wake. One of the unfortunate souls who took up Ny'alotha was a troll named Zando. The ambitious witch doctor hailed from the mighty Gurubashi tribe, and his rivals had ousted him from a position of power and prestige. Zando spent his days nursing dreams of retribution. It was a simple thing for Ny'alotha to latch on to Zando's anger and twist him into a pawn. Guided by Ny'alotha's whispers, Zando and a handful of loyal witch doctors, they sought out a strange mound of blackened stone. Troll mystics had forbidden their people from disturbing this site, but Zando ignored the taboo. He believed the mount held great power that he could use to defeat his rivals. He and his followers would soon discover what the mount really was, the body of a slumbering servant of the old gods named Kafix. Zefix and Zakash, they were sent out to kill Titankeeper Tyr and his companions, but Tyr heroically sacrificed himself. He expended his life force in a blinding explosion of arcane energy that shook the bones of the world. This explosion created a giant crater with the lifeless bodies of Tyr and Zakash, while Zefix, he had only narrowly escaped Tyr's vengeful wrath, and he collapsed into a deep hibernation, where now Zando, under the guidance of Ny'alotha, they have started making blood offerings to the creature. With his mind corrupted by the blade, the witch doctor did not hesitate. He dismembered some of his companions with the dagger, and then he used the blood and organs as reagents to awaken the monstrosity. In a final act, Zando buried his gore-stained dagger into Zifix's hide, and the giant rumbled to life. Zando and his followers were never seen again. Trolls would later visit the site, and they found only scattered bones picked clean of flesh. Now after Zifix awakened, it brought the shadow of war upon Azeroth. The monstrous creature, he rallied other old god minions to its side, and he launched a campaign to grind troll civilization into dust. Unlike the trolls who had roused it, Zifix knew how to harness Ny'alotha's true potential. Calling on the blade's power, the Kafrak spread pestilence among the trolls to weaken their bodies, and bombarded them with visions of death to weaken their minds. Though the trolls would eventually destroy Zifix and defeat its armies, Ny'alotha would haunt the dreams of the war survivors until the end of their days. Many tribes would recount legends about the Black Blade that had nearly driven them to extinction. The next time that this dark dagger showed up in history is during the War of Three Hammers. Dark Iron, Wildhammer and Bronzebeard, they had a civil war after the leader had died and their clans fractured. Modgut of the Dark Iron clan, she embraced her clan's long history of studying arcane magic. As the wife of Sorcerer Vayne Fauruzan, she had first pick of the Dark Iron's most powerful enchanted artifacts. Yet she was never quite satisfied with the offerings on hand. She would often dispatch her servants to find new relics that she could study and use as instruments in the creation of spells. One of these dwarves returned with a blade that thrummed with dark energy. Modgut was immediately taken by it. For days, she retreated into her archives to unravel the dagger's mysteries. At times, she could be seen talking to the weapon, and when she later emerged, Modgut called for the dwarf who had brought the blade in order to thank him. But no one could find him. No one could even remember his name or his face. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. Now when the Dark Iron and Wildhammers clashed at each other at Grimbatol, neither side showed the other mercy. The Wildhammers' bravery was their greatest weapon, and Modgut sought to take that away from them. Under the thunderous clash of hammer against axe, she screamed an incantation and she wove her profane spellwork. She slid her enchanted dagger over her palm, and she let her blood spill onto the stones. Modgut's foul ritual brought Grimbatol's shadows to life. They sprang from the city's dark nooks and crannies, falling upon the Wildhammers with blades forged of night. By some feat of courage, Thane Cardros rallied his remaining Wildhammer warriors, and they launched a desperate counterattack against the Dark Irons. Cardros pulled through his enemies with a single-minded focus of a war golem, only coming to a stop when he found Modgut. Here, the fate of Wildhammer and Dark Iron would be decided. The sorceress unleashed her dark power on Cardros, but he pressed his attack. Then Modgut reached for her black blade, the weapon that had turned Grimbatol into a den of nightmare. It was not there. She had lost her cherished weapon, or, as some would claim, the weapon had abandoned her. With one mighty blow of his hammer, Cardros mortally wounded Modgut, and he secured victory for the Wildhammers. It is said that as the sorceress lay dying, she repeated one phrase over and over again. "You promised." The shadows unleashed within Grimbatol that would haunt the place even after Modgut's death, and the Wildhammer, after teaming up with the Bronzebeards and defeating the Dark Iron clan, they decided to move from Grimbatol into the hinterlands. Decades after Modgut lost Ny'alotha, the blade was taken up by a human bishop named Natalie Selene. She had lived through the First War, when the Orcish horde invaded Azeroth and conquered Stormwind. Now after the war, Selene realized that to defeat the green-skinned orcs, humanity would need to study the strange powers that they wielded. She closely examined their magic, and she visited battle sites where the dark arts had befouled the land. From her investigations, she learned of an otherworldly blade that the orcs had once used in their blood rituals, a blade that held sway over the shadows themselves. Troubled that such a profane weapon could exist, Selene swore to hunt it down and destroy it in the name of the light. As you might know by now, Selene had quite a change of heart in between, and she stepped away from the light to embrace the shadows and lead the formation of the Cult of Forgotten Shadows. This is taken from The Secrets of the Void, written by Natalie Selene. The moment I touched the blade, a name was spoken in my mind: Ny'alotha. I knew then that I could not destroy the dagger. Not yet. How can one defeat a power she does not understand? And I had much to understand, very much indeed. Ny'alotha whispered to me in waking and in dreaming. It taught me that there is more to this world than just light. There is also void. In the ebb and flow between these two forces, one can find power and knowledge beyond anything that the Church of the Holy Light has ever revealed to us. One can cross the divide between light and void. One can pull strands from each side and weave a tapestry of day and night. Of course, there are consequences. There always are when walking in the shadows. Now, by the time of the Second War, Natalie Selene had learned how to wield shadow magic from Ny'alotha. She in turn had taught her dangerous arts to other worshippers of the light, and she rallied them against the Horde. Selene and her followers, they waged the war in secret, hunting down orcs across the human kingdoms. Ny'alotha continued whispering in Selene's mind, slowly unraveling her sanity. Despite her noble intentions, she became more and more obsessed with the blade and the mysteries of the void. And so did Selene's companions. They were overzealous in their campaign against the orcs, putting innocent lives at risk. Some strayed too far into the shadow, forsaking the light completely. Though Selene urged her followers to use caution, her calls were ignored and even treated with suspicion. It's unclear exactly what happened to the former bishop, but some sources state that Ny'alotha incited rebellion among her allies. It convinced them that Selene was holding them back from their true potential, holding back knowledge and power that they could have if they killed her. In the dead of night, the conspirators murdered Selene and they took Ny'alotha for themselves. For years, the Kil'jaeden Magi in Dalaran, they'd watched Natalie Selene, greatly troubled by her dark teachings. Now after her death, they set out to scour her writings from history. Magi picked through the villages and cities that Selene had traveled. They gathered up every scroll and tome that she had penned. The Kil'jaeden hid these writings in Dalaran, hoping that that would be the end of Selene's dangerous brand of magic. Yet despite their efforts, they could not bury the doctrine of balance that she had preached. In the years to come, others would take up her teachings and devote themselves to the light and the void. The Magi also knew of Ny'alotha, but they never found it. Like Selene's teachings, the blade would not simply fade away. It had more minds to twist, more pawns to use, and more innocents to terrorize. This blade has had a hand in a lot of major events of Warcraft history, and now it resurfaced again in the hands of the Twilight Hammer cult. We fly over to the camp to do a bit of investigation, and the clues in the camp, they speak about a new leader. Once the hand of the Twilight Father, Archbishop Benedictus, which you might remember fighting during the Cataclysm, the Shadow Deacon has decided that now is the time to regain the past glory. While the Twilight Father left to serve Deathwing, the Shadow Deacon maintained his role as a bishop in Stormwind. He continued infiltration and recruitment efforts there for some time until the fall of Deathwing and the Twilight Father. He then ordered what was left of their organization to go quiet and allow their foes their temporary victory. But then he found it, or perhaps it found him. The Black Blade, Xal'atath. It has led them to the spot where Zivik's companion Zakash has fallen to tear, and they're working on resurrecting him. Warriors have gone through a lot of trouble of putting the beast down, so let's head into the tomb and make sure that their plans fail.
We have an intruder.
Excellent. I was expecting him, but I don't think you were.
What? You traitor!
Moira said you'd be coming. I'm Slaghammer, paying my family's debt by hanging out with these buggers. Let me take down this barrier. The Shadow Deacon's already below starting his ritual. To get there, we'll need to do a bit of work. If you have any questions, let me know. But we'd best hurry.
The family debt that he's talking about, that is probably something to do with the quest Seize the Ambassador. This one is part of a chain, in which it seems like the Dark Iron Dwarfs that they're planning a large-scale attack on Ironforge. But by this time, Moira has already joined the Council of Three Hammers, and she's supposed to be leading together with the Wild Hammers and the Bronzebeards. This means that the Dark Irons were supposed to be allies of Ironforge, and as it turns out, Ambassador Slaghammer was actually working for the Twilight Hammer cult, and they quickly tossed him in jail. This Slaghammer might be the same, but is most likely a relative.
These buggers are suppressing Tyr's wards, so the Deacon can do his work below. We need to take them down. Start by dispelling the wards on the ritualists. A trap! Destroy that creature before it kills us! Here we go. The path to the prison should be open. Well, if it ain't me old friend, we'd be doing the world a favor ridding it of this baddie. More of the Deacon's mind games. We could mass dispel him, or just fight through, but it wouldn't get too close.
Yes, the blade is right. I am unstoppable. Once Sargeras lives again, I will hold dominion over this world. Our old leaders chose to work with pawns. I choose the real power!
This is nae good.
Defend me, Blade! You said this would work!
You take care of the Deacon!
You think to stop me. With this weapon, I can do anything. Anything! You cannot trust your own mind! This shouldn't be happening! Why aren't you protecting me?
Weak and pitiful. The Twilight Father did not dare wield me, for he knew the price of failure.
Give me another chance! No! No!
You, on the other hand... Yes, I foresee us doing great things together. Take hold of my haft and I will aid you. For now.
Enough with your flirting. I know you think all dwarven women look the same.
Yes, we are eager to feast on the fallen Titan's minions. But first, Zakash. The cultists may try to stir him again, or he could awaken on his own. We must consume his essence to ensure he is gone forever. You know this must be done.
You did it! The cultists have run off! Ha! Ye should get back to Foul. I'll use this Twilight Portal Stone for ye. Keep an eye on that blade, though. No telling what something that old be capable of.
Ny'alotha has a mind of its own. Ignore its maddening whispers. Do not trust the lies that it spins. Take from it what you need, but always remember that the dark presence in the blade is not your ally. And so Shadowpriest will, as they adventure through the Broken Isles and take the battle to the Legion. The whispering done by the blade, it is quite interesting though. We're uncertain what exactly the weapon is, and of course we don't know when she's telling the truth and when she lies, but here are some of the more interesting whispers.
We may face some of my brethren in this conflict. A prospect that delights me. Their power will be mine. They will pay for what was done to me long ago.
What exactly was done to her? What was Ny'alotha before she became this weapon?
The god of the deep writhes in his prison, breaking free ever so slowly. You should hurry and defeat the fallen titan. There are greater battles yet to fight. Almost completely gone. As if it never existed. But the rift is deep and vast, and somewhere down there it stirs. Something has changed. The last prison weakens. We must prepare. It is ironic that the weakest of us may be the ultimate victor. Cthulhu, Yogg-Saron, Y'Shaarj, and... well... only one would remain to consume the world that was always meant to be. Xavius, running from one master to the next, scrambling for power, yet defeated again and again. The god of the deep picks a poor champion. Or is there something else at play?
Plans upon plans, schemes upon schemes, all trying to accomplish the same thing. Return to the glory days of the Black Empire. Ny'alotha, apparently the weakest, is working his way out of his prison. It's uncertain when it's going to go down, but that's an expansion just waiting to happen. This could be with the other side of Azeroth, with Ny'alotha, Naga, and perhaps two completely different realms, since the following whispers they mention...
Do not be impressed by tall icons of the titans which stand here. The towers of sacrifice in Ny'alotha dwarf these pathetic temples. This city of elves pales in comparison to the sleeping city. I long for the day our masters can truly pass into this realm. You have only seen fragments, shadows, the faintest of echoes. Ask the Ethereals what one of these manifestations is capable of.
The old gods are actually minions of the Void Lords, sent into our reality to corrupt the Titan spirits while it still slumbers inside the planet. The fear of such a thing actually happening is what caused Sargeras to form the Burning Legion and eradicate life from the universe before it was taken by the Void. Ny'alotha is a city that's been mentioned a couple of times now, especially with the puzzle box of Yogg-Saron, which could make for one hell of a city to play in.
How far the Manastorms have fallen. Relying on crude machines and weak arcane wizardry did them no favors. Still, they had their uses. Odin was a great enemy, until his own arrogance proved his undoing. You should ask him if he has considered Loken's final words to him. Go ahead.
You dare mock my imprisonment? Then receive Loken's punishment in his stead!
And with that, I think it's about time to stop listening to this blade. If you want to know more of Whispers, I'll link a related Wowpedia article in the description. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed the story as much as I have. As always, subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, guys. See ya! Hello, everyone. The story of Velen the Prophet and his Draenei is a very long story. He and his people have been around for quite a while, so I might not be able to get all the details in, but I'll sure as hell try. The story begins around 20,000 years ago, and to put it in perspective, the Well of Eternity didn't explode until around 10,000 years ago. Give or take a few years by now. The Draenei called themselves Eredar back then, and in the time they lived on the planet named Argus. Their leaders were called Archimonde, Kil'jaeden, and Velen the Prophet. Now these three, they were not just leading together, they were like soul brothers, man. They were so evolved that they could communicate and share visions with their minds. And yeah, they were just very, very close. And Velen was the only one with the gift of sight. Now one day on the planet of Argus, they received a visit from Sargeras. He found great potential in the Eredar and he promised them the universe. Worlds to explore, people to adore them, knowledge from far and wide just for them to study. All they had to do was pledge their loyalty to Sargeras. Now Kil'jaeden and Archimonde, they were directly on board with this plan, but to Velen, something didn't quite feel right. He went to the Atamal crystal, a gift to his people from a time long forgotten, and he meditated about this. At first he saw the same vision as Sargeras had promised them, but then the vision changed to show his true plans. In this real vision, Velen looked at himself and the others, and he saw that they were transformed into horrific beings. The loving people that would follow them changed into demonic beings of the twisting nether. Worlds were aflame and the Burning Legion conquered them one by one. With this knowledge, with this truth in his mind, he went back to his brothers, but Archimonde and Kil'jaeden, they were already sold. They didn't put much value in Velen's visions, and even so, they simply didn't care. Velen realized that if they would pledge their loyalty to Sargeras, then the universe would fall. So desperately he prayed for help and received an answer from the Naru, specifically the Naru named Kur. The Naru, beings of light and dead set on stopping the Burning Legion, told Velen to gather as many as he could. To help him with this task, Velen asked his trusted friend Talgaf to help him, and yeah, they gathered on a hill and they waited for rescue. In the meantime, Velen had taken the Atamal crystal with him, the Naru had told him to do so, and in the distance he could see Talgaf. The crystal warned him that what he saw was not the truth, and in reality Sargeras had already begun with transforming the Eredar into Man'ari. Man'ari is the Eredar word for something twisted, unnatural, tainted by foul magic. Was it not for the crystal, Velen would not have seen the betrayal until it was way too late. His corrupted brothers and sisters slowly made their way towards the gathered group, and desperately Velen called to the heavens. And the heavens responded. A bright light hit the Atamal crystal and separated it in 7 individual crystals, all with a different color. A shield was formed around Velen and those that he had gathered, and above them a ship appeared. The Naru had kept their word, and they told Velen to bring the 7 crystals with him, for he would surely need them. Just in time, the Eredar managed to escape the planet, and from that moment on, they would call themselves Draenei, also known as Exiled Ones.
The Naru have not forgotten us.
Kil'jaeden took this betrayal of Velen very personal, and he swore that he would find him, even if it took 1,000 years. And so the chase was on. The Draenei would run, Kil'jaeden and the Burning Legion would follow. Every time they came close, Velen would be warned, or one of the crystals would allow Velen and his people to escape in time. It's not explained what happened to the planets that they left behind, but it's not hard to imagine that the Burning Legion conquered them. This went on for a very long time, until around 200 years ago, the Draenei had to make a crash landing on the planets they would call Draenor. For some reason, the Naru named Kur had fallen ill, so they couldn't use the ship anymore and they were stuck on the planet. It was Talgaf who found the Draenei again, and he told Kil'jaeden. This time Kil'jaeden had a better plan in mind. Instead of going in with his full force with the might of the Burning Legion and just to see the Draenei escape again, he decided to use another race that lived on Draenor. He decided to use the Orcs. He manipulated them into becoming a fighting force known as the First Horde. This also included offering the blood of his servant Man'aroth, which gave the Orcs incredible powers but also made them slaves. When the attack started, the Draenei were pretty confused. Before this, they weren't exactly allies with the Orcs, but they had been trading with them. There was even a moment where they saved the lives of 2 of these Orcs, and one of those Orcs was the father of Thrall, he was named Durotan, and the other was Orgrim Doomhammer. When Velen figured out what was going on, that Kil'jaeden was behind it, he tried to make peace with the Orcs. He ended up in front of Durotan and told him that he wanted to take them all to Oshu'gan. Oshu'gan was actually the ship that the Draenei crashed with, but over the years had become a sacred place to the Orcs. When Naru fall ill or enter their death cycle, they enter a cycle called the Void, where they unwillingly suck up all the light that they can, including the souls of the departed. The Naru Kur had befriended the souls of the departed Orcs, and he had inspired the shamans of the Orcs to take care of him. That made this place very sacred to the Orcs, and when Velen told them that this was because of the Draenei and the Naru, well, That pissed them off. Imagine that the one that you are told is your enemy, the Draenei, is now telling you that your most sacred place is because of them. They weren't exactly happy with that. In fact, they were very insulted, and it took everything Durotan had to keep his people from murdering Velen on the spot. His orders were to deliver Velen to Ner'zhul, but because of their past, because the Draenei saved his life, and because he didn't exactly trust Ner'zhul, he decided to let Velen go. This action did not stop the Horde from marching on. It was their mission to kill every Draenei they could find, and near the end they were corrupted by fel magic, they were corrupted by demon blood, all kinds of vile things. The war would come to a conclusion with a final assault on Siofra city. The Draenei had made a plan to leave enough of their people behind so that Velen and some of the others could flee to Zangarmarsh and live another day. This pained Velen greatly because leaving his people behind is not something easy to do, but the Naru assured him that he and his people had to survive. They still had a role to play in the Army of Light against the Burning Legion, so they had to survive. The orcs, they sacked the city. The Draenei who stand behind sacrificed their life, and their plan went as good as they hoped. Kil'jaeden believed all the Draenei to be dead, and he left the orcs to their fate. The planet of Draenor was all but destroyed, the use of fel magic had corrupted the land as much as it had the orcs, food and water was becoming a rare thing, and all of this led to the first Orcish invasion of Azeroth. For Velen and his people, times were not any easier. Some of the Draenei who had stayed behind in Siofra, they managed to survive. During the battle, a strange red mist entered the city, and the effects of it only became clear later on. What happened was that some of the Draenei that had breathed in this mist, they started to devolve. And they started to devolve into the form known as the Broken. Not only did their bodies change, they also had trouble with speaking, with thinking, and to a race like the Draenei that was so highly evolved, that fate was just horrible, man. You would imagine that the other Draenei would be very happy with some of these survivors, because at this point in time there weren't that many Draenei left. What happened instead is that they decided to send all the broken away and separate them from the healthy ones. They feared that their condition was somehow contagious, and so they just sent them all away to their separate camps. Amongst those broken that they sent away was a former paladin named Nobundo. And not only did he turn into a broken, he also lost his connection to the light. Years he tried to reconnect, but instead he received an answer from a completely different source. This source was the elements, once allies to the shamans of the Orc, and they now came to Nobundo. They offered him their power, their allegiance, in return for his respect for the elements. Years of training with the elements would follow, and the day came that Nobundo returned to the people that had turned him away. He offered his wisdom of the elements, but still the Draenei wanted nothing to do with him. Only Velen the Prophet, who had received a vision of Nobundo, recognized him as part of the salvation for their people. And so the race of the Draenei, first only highly attuned to the light, now began their training in the ways of shamanism.
Not all who wander are lost.
Now this was not just an event that happened in a week, right? It took him years to learn the craft of shamanism. And in the meantime, the world around the Draenei didn't exactly stand still. Actually, some major events happened, but I'm going to have to keep this short to focus the story on Velen. The Horde tried to invade Azeroth, but they were pushed back and the portal was closed behind them. Ner'zhul opened several rifts to different worlds, causing Draenor to nearly destroy itself and turning it into Outland as we know it today. Magfaredon used those rifts to summon more demons and he proclaimed himself as Lord of Outland. Khadgar looked for help with his Burning Legion problem, and the Naru, led by Adal, aided them to take Siofra city. Now sometime after the destruction of Draenor, the Naru brought the Tempest Keep to Outland. In Azeroth, the events of Warcraft 3 took place. Arthas assaulted Silvermoon City, nearly wiping out all the High Elves, and used the Sunwell to resurrect Kel'Thuzad. This action destroyed the Sunwell, and it cut the High Elves of their source for magic. They would now start to call themselves Blood Elves, and Kael'thas Sunstrider was their leader. Kael'thas would eventually ally himself with Lady Vashj, and later would ally with Illidan, whose story would take them back to Outland. There they teamed up with another broken named Akama, and together they sealed the rifts that Magfaredon was using, and this was to prevent him from getting any more forces in. They eventually imprisoned Magfaredon, and Illidan took over the Black Temple. This wasn't exactly what Akama had in mind, so he waited until we arrived to overthrow Illidan, but that's a different story. Now those are the events in a very short version, and at this point Illidan is under the command of Kil'jaeden, and he was told to stop Arthas from merging with the Lich King. He failed in his mission, and together with Kael'thas and Lady Vashj, they returned to Outland and they started to prepare a defense against Kil'jaeden. Now for some reason, this could be because of Illidan, this could be because of Kael'thas himself, but at some point they sent his troops to assault Siofra city, which as I said was in the hands of Adal. The Blood Elf troops that he sent were under the leadership of Vorinnfal the Seer. However, Vorinnfal had received a vision which showed him that the only hope for his race to survive did not lie with Kael'thas, but with Adal. As they arrived at Shafra, they laid down their weapons and they pledged their allegiance to Adal and the Naru, which was a heavy blow for Kael'thas because these were some of his finest troops. Another assault from Kael'thas and his troops was on the Tempest Keep. They wanted to use its technology for their own benefit, and inside the keep they only found a Naru named Muru to defend it. Kael'thas easily captured the Naru, and he sent him to Silvermoon City, where they would use its power of the light to empower Paladins of the Blood Elves, and these Paladins were also known as Blood Knights. Lady Liadrin was the first to do this, and so she became their leader. After the Blood Elves had taken over the Tempest Keep, Velen decided that it was time to search for a new place to take refuge. Together with Nobundo and the rest of his people, he personally led an assault on the Tempest Keep, specifically the part known as the Exodar. They took control of the ship, but the Blood Elves figured out what they were doing and they sabotaged it. This caused the ship to spin out of control through the twisting nether until it landed on a planet known as Azeroth.
1 month ago, a terrible explosion tore open the skies above northern Kalimdor. At that moment, the great ship Exodar plummeted from the heavens and crashed upon the world of Azeroth. Having fled the ravaged world of Outland, the noble Draenei used the dimension-traveling Exodar to reach safe haven. Inspired by tales of the heroic alliance that stood against the might of the Burning Legion, the Draenei have come to enlist aid in retaking their shattered homeland. Dedicated to preserving life and upholding the tenets of the Holy Light, the Draenei hope to gather a new coalition of warriors to battle the Burning Legion and put a halt to its horrific Burning Crusade. Armed only with courage and their unshakable faith in the light, the Draenei look forward to finding the Alliance and ushering them towards the destiny that awaits beyond the skies of Azeroth.
This brings us to the events of the Burning Crusade, where their story takes us to the Tempest Keep. In the meantime, Kael'thas has changed his allegiance since Illidan has gone rather crazy after his defeat by the hands of Arthas. Kael'thas no longer serves Illidan, he now serves Kil'jaeden. We fight with him of course, but we don't exactly finish him off. He somehow manages to survive the assault and he sends his new troops, the Fellbloods, to attack his own city of Silvermoon and bring the Naru Muru to the Sunwell Plateau. This attack leads to Lady Liadrin to seek a new source of power for her and the Blood Knights. She travels to Shafra City to visit the Naru Adal, and she begs him for forgiveness for what they had done with Muru. Adal reveals that the events were prophesied by Velen long ago. Silvery moon, washed in blood, led astray into the night, armed with the sword of broken light. Broken, then betrayed by one, standing there bestride the sun. At darkest hour, redemption comes, a knightly lady sworn to blood. It was no mistake that Muru was the only Naru left in the Tempest Keep, and all events happened exactly as they were supposed to. I see it clearly now. I renounce my loyalties to the House Sunstrider and its false prince. I pledge the blades of my Blood Knights to the feet of Kil'jaeden and the restoration of Silvermoon. We will fight beside you, Adal. Draenei and Blood Elf band together to stop Kael'thas and the summoning of Kil'jaeden. Along the way, we encounter Muru again and we're forced to fight him. In the end, we manage to stop Kil'jaeden, and this is the point where we see Velen again.
Not all who wander. Mortal heroes, your victory here today was foretold long ago. My brother's anguished cry of defeat will echo across the universe, bringing renewed hope to all those who still stand against the Burning Crusade. As the Legion's final defeat draws ever nearer, stand proud in the knowledge that you have saved worlds without number from the flame. Just as this day marks an ending, so too does it herald a new beginning. The creature Entropius, whom you were forced to destroy, was once the noble Naru. Muru. In life, Muru channeled vast energies of light and hope. For a time, a misguided few sought to steal those energies.
Our arrogance was unpardonable. We damned one of the most noble beings of all. We may never atone for this sin.
Then fortunate it is that I have reclaimed the noble Naru's spark from where it fell. Where faith dwells, hope is never lost, young Blood Elf.
Can it be?
Gaze now, mortals, upon the heart of Naaru, unblemished, bathed by the light of creation, just as it was at the dawn. In time, the light and hope held within will rebirth more than this mere fount of power. Mayhap they will rebirth the soul of a nation.
Blessed ancestors! I feel it. So much love. So much grace. There are no words. Impossible to describe.
Salvation, young one. It waits for us all. Farewell.
He has taken the core of the defeated Naru and he uses it to restore the Sunwell to its former glory, saving the Blood Elf race from their addiction, and in time they will heal.
Empowered by the holy light and the undying strength of their convictions, the Draenei led the charge against the demonic Burning Legion in Outland. Now, with the Legion's defeat, they have completed the desperate mission that first brought them to Azeroth. Though some Draenei were sent back to Outland to revitalize their former civilization, the majority have vowed to remain and uphold their sacred commitment to the Alliance. Driven by a powerful vision, the immortal prophet Velen believes that a great war between the darkness and the light is fast approaching, and that Azeroth will be its principal battleground. As one of Velen's chosen, you must stand bravely before the shadow and ensure that your people are ready for the war to come.
That's the end of the Burning Crusade story, and unfortunately after that we don't see a whole lot of Velen or the Draenei. He makes an appearance every now and again, but nothing really important. Outside of the game, in the novels and in the stories, we learn that he has taken Anduin Wrynn under his wing and he teaches him the ways of the light. In Velen's short story on the WoW website, he receives a vision about Anduin leading the army of light. Instead of the prince, an armored warrior stood before him, his plate helm and breastplate shining with the essence of the light itself. The warrior wielded a sword forged from the same material as the armor, held it aloft as he perched on an outcropping. Whether it was on another world or Azeroth, Velen couldn't quite tell. And suddenly the dark sky above erupted with the combined chivalry of Azeroth's races. The Blood Elves, Orcs, Trolls, Tauren, and even the accursed undead and scheming goblins rode flying mounts of every sort and description. They were armored and armed in magical weaponry, glowing with so much power it hurts Velen's eyes to look at them. Besides the legions of the Horde, the ancient Night Elves charged with humans, dwarves and gnomes, whose ancestors formed the original alliance. And the shape-changing Worgen were united with them. Velen's own Draenei bolstered the army, their ranks adorned in otherworldly metals and bearing crystalline maces and swords. The Alliance and Horde were not alone. Dragons swooped and soared in formations that made the sky resemble a giant, multicolored reptilian wing. They blanketed the horizon with their physical size and numbers, and when they roared a challenge, it shook not just the earth Velen stood on, but the universe as well. And yet, for all this, the greatest shock to Velen's senses came as he saw those that flew just beyond the army of dragons. The Naru had taken the field, so many that Velen didn't understand how creation could contain them. The power of these beings of light filled Velen's heart with hope, swept away the lonely centuries, and left him wonder that he could ever despair, that the dark, no matter how terrible, could ever truly reign. And then a shadow fell. It was vast and empty and swallowed all light that entered it. Velen knew it would be all-consuming until at last it would turn and devour itself, endlessly gnawing on nothing in the great dark beyond, removing all meaning from the universe, from the most heartbreaking sonata to the most arresting sunset. It was too terrible to see, to comprehend, and yet the army headed straight for it, and the light began to fade. Right now, Anduin is just a priest, and in my opinion he still needs a whole lot of story development if they're ever going to make him lead the army. With that said, the vision is there, the prophecy is there, and we know where the story will take us. As I told you all at the start, Velen and the Draenei are very old, and he and his people have been through a lot. Still to this day, they try to stop their fallen brothers from destroying the universe. Together with the Alliance and the Horde, they prevented Kil'jaeden from coming to our world, and in the future I'm sure they, the Naru and the Light will play a vital role in the coming battles against the Legion. How the story will unfold? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. I hope you all enjoyed the story. Subscribe if you like my videos, and until next time guys. See ya!